There we go. Hello and welcome to the show. Today I'm out of the studio again, and we're getting a little bit better at this. Today we've got camp chairs and a camp table, and I'm sitting with a dude known as Himmy. Himmy, thanks for letting me come and hang at your shed. I understand that this is actually quite special to allow somebody that you really don't know to come and sit with a few of your artworks here.
Scott, mate, I guess long-time listener. Long-time stalker. And I've been sending you subliminal little messages every now and then to be like, if you ever need me on Wheelhouse, just let me know, mate. But it's nice
to probably make room for you. So,
well, now the jazz has gone.
Yeah, mate.
You need an token Indian guy.
Well, look, what we need is somebody in the same time zone. He's killing us with the other side of the planet. He's really hurting the show there.
Yeah. Well, look, token Indian guy, I'm ready.
Mate, I think you're in. I'm just going to vote you in. So there'll be an upcoming episode of Wheelhouse where we welcome Himmy to the fold. But, mate, as I said, thank you for having me here, because you can see behind us, for those of you that are actually watching the show and aren't just listening through your ears, you'll see some special things sitting behind us. Himmy, aside from on the other side, which you can't see out of camera, where you've got like some cold room or something, he's got like panels and tools. And, mate, it's a garage. It's shit everywhere. It's what you do.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about what we're sitting in front of you, mate. This is probably how people would go, why are you talking to this guy? Tell us about what's going on here.
Look, these are my children, mate. These are my children. Ever since I was 15, I used to sit down and have all of these cars on my wallpaper, and now, you know, through many through many years of hard work, I guess it's come to a point where I can sort of invite you over to my little space, which I have all to myself, which is away from all the noise of the outside world, to talk about, I guess, some of these cars. But then, to me, they're a bit more than cars. You know, I might look on the face as just a car salesman or whatever you may have, but there's 25 years of love here, which I don't think will ever die. I mean, I could talk all day about each one of these cars, but they've all got their own histories, and I buy them for certain reasons at certain points in time. They all mean something different to me. They all invoke an emotion that's underlying, it's been there for a long time. And I guess that's what it's all about, because every time I look at them, you drive them, you're like, man, I remember when I was 15, or I remember when I was this age and I saw this video. You get all those flashbacks, and people think, you know, you're an idiot or something like that, but it's a real thing. It's a real thing.
Totally get that, and I'm reasonably confident that more than one or two of our listeners will know what you're talking about. Yeah. It takes you back to a place, and it takes you to a memory, and generally a fairly fond memory or memories. And there's something special about these, because we've discussed our love of sort of pre-2000s. I mean, I know you've got an R35 here as well, but there's real character in these 1990s Japanese cars. That was a wild time, I think.
It definitely was, but I mean, it's funny when you say you've got the R35 here. It may not be a car of that time, but I think Nissan, and with their cleverness, they've managed to include a lot of the things that we liked about the old 90s cars in the R35. Sure, it's got a DCT and all that, but it makes noises that get you worried.
They're criminally fast.
They're criminally fast. They're cheap to maintain. They're relatively cheap to upgrade when you think in the grand scheme of things.
Because it's still a Nissan. Like
it's still a Nissan, and it's got all those characteristics that we loved about the old cars, just in a newer shell that's more compliant with current regulations and people's expectations.
Well, that's it. It doesn't have mad pop-ups or the other things that we like that were all removed.
Well, that's it. I think, but even then, you talk about pop-ups. I think if you brought pop-ups back today, they probably wouldn't be received well, I reckon.
I don't think they would either, because they're just dumb and they break. But because they don't exist anymore, they're so cool.
Well, that could be the other thing. That could be the other thing. I mean, I did have one car with pop-ups and no longer has pop-ups.
Well, I noticed you've got the white NSX there that has the later eyes.
Yeah, so it's got the sorcery body kit on there, and I'm a huge NSX fan. I'm a GTR guy, but the NSX for me is holy grail of JDM. Always has been for me. Ever since I drove one, just the way they're engineered, the way they feel, you'll know having an NSX.
They are a special car. Now, having had the opportunity to put my foot to the floor in an NSX, it was an experience when I first. It actually took me. It took me a little. It's a car that I found terrifying, mainly because of how special it is, and it's that sort of car where you you probably don't want to get this wrong.
Yeah.
And being a mid-engine car and knowing what I know about mid-engine cars, when it goes wrong, it gets pretty untidy. But there is just something that I would consider an orchestral symphony. As an NSX runs through the rev range, opens up, and that glorious thing called VTEC, and the noise and the experience, because it's not that fast. It's not fast by 2024 standards.
No.
It's not as vicious as you think it will be, but it is probably as close to a perfect, pure driving experience as I have ever had.
You just feel so connected with them.
Very connected.
And the noise that they make, not necessarily, they don't make any noise outside, but the noise inside the cabin, I think that's been engineered by Yamaha, is amazing.
It is amazing.
If you want to do a subtle mod to your NSX, which I recommend, Science of Speed in America sell a really nice intake induction kit, which amplifies that noise. That looks OEM, but piste resistance, man. I put it in one of my old NSXs, and the noise, I can't even describe it. The way it sounds, it just amplifies that. It doesn't add or take away from it. It just makes it that a little bit louder and a little bit more pronounced, and it's really good.
Because I must say, I've watched the Ayrton Senna Loafers video more times than I care to admit.
Have you tried to impersonate it yet?
I have, yes. And I must say, that is a car that really applauds you when you get it right and laughs at you when you get it wrong. Because when you miss your heel toe and you get it off a little bit, it's like, oh, gee, yeah. But when you get it right, it's just seamless.
It's gorgeous. They're a great car. I think they're just very user friendly.
They are
as well. And
again, it's a Honda.
It's a Honda. What more can you say?
And this is the whole thing with these Japanese cars.
Yep.
There is a simplicity and precision to them, but because they are mass market cars and built in a culture that builds on top of its successes. They're just simple perfection. We were talking earlier, what's the ideal first car? The ideal first car is a Toyota Corolla. Like just anything, Toyota something, you will struggle to go wrong because it will just work.
They just work.
And that translates into all the silly things.
Speaking of just working, so this car...
And for those just listening, when you reference this car...
it's a gold Toyota Supra. When I first looked at it, I thought, oh, wow, this is a top secret car. And it had the top secret body kit and the right wheels and the right turbo setup and the right interior. And I was like, this is great. Let's buy this. I wasn't looking for one at the time. These cars, you can't look for these cars.
No.
You can't look for them. When they're there, they appear out of nowhere. And if you have the means to buy them, fucking just buy it. Sorry,
yeah, you got to go fast.
You buy them, man.
Yeah,
because if you don't, I know I've a few that have come through the auctions or my agents in Japan, and I haven't been in a position to buy them, or I just didn't. And I thought I'll get another chance. You don't get another chance.
They never appear again. You have to move quickly.
Ever since I bought that, never saw one like this again, and it's been nearly 2 years now. So. This car we later found out, and social media is a wonderful thing. How did I find out? I found out because I put the car on my social media and I go, hey, I believe this could be a top secret car. I introduced it to the world on my little social media Instagram platform, and one guy goes, hey, no, I know that car. It was built by a company called Revolve SA. Apologies for my heavy breathing. I'm a bit sick at the moment, but Revolve SA, I later went on to find out, was one of the primary tuners of all the Midnight Club cars.
Oh, wow.
So this actually ended up, and so I messaged them and I said, hey, I've got this car. They had an Instagram page. I said, I've got this car. Do you recognize it? They're like, yeah, we do. It took us 5 years to build that car.
Oh, wow.
And it was one of the last Midnight Club project cars, basically, and it got abandoned and sat in our warehouse for how many years doing nothing. And somehow it made its way to a place where someone found it for me, and they go, hey, what do you think of this? And I was like, yeah, buy it, because I thought it was a top secret car. But so they expanded a little bit, and they said it was a project between the owner, who was Midnight Club person, Revolve SA, who did a lot of the mechanical work, and Abflug, who we know who makes the Wild Super body kits, did a lot of the body work. Now, what you probably can't tell from the front, because the proportions are so good, is yes, it's got the top secret GT300 wide body kit on it, but the headlights and the tail lights, they've actually pushed them out about 3 inches.
Have they really?
They have. And I've got this big summary that the guys from Revolve wrote. They said we installed the kit, we didn't like the proportions,
so we changed
modified everything. We pushed
Holy
the headlights,
shit.
taillights out. You can see that they've actually bring the doors out as well.
Really?
You can see the body lines.
Yeah, right. See, I'm staring straight down the side of the car at the moment, and I'm just looking at it because it's a real work of art, this car.
Yeah, and it's got the scissor doors, which aren't...
oh, really?
Yeah.
I didn't notice that.
So normally when you'll find we do scissor doors, aftermarket scissor doors, they'll just use a generic hinge which sort of goes out and then up.
Correct.
But you see on the A-pillar of this car how the A-pillar's cut?
Oh, shit, yes, I do.
So you imagine a Lamborghini where the doors go straight up.
Oh.
There's a lot of engineering in this
You're kidding.
to make it do that.
So that goes straight up?
It goes straight up. It's insane.
That's gangster.
I'll show you later.
We're going to film that. That's going on the reels, mate. That's... What?
So there's some really cool stuff, and each of these cars in here have their own little quirk, little story. Half of them that I have are not here at the moment or in various stages of restoration, like the Car Shop F1 car, the wide body blue GT300 Y Sports Le Mans 33, the yellow R34, which was another, oh my God, I'm in a position to do it, let's do it. Which left me not being able to buy other stock from Japan because I spent all my money.
That's it. These decisions come at a cost.
But that's the passion.
And see, talking to you about this is what I love, is by you taking care of these cars and having that level of interest where you then reach out, you find the original manufacturers and you talk with them, and you actually, somebody gave it the berries, you're actually preserving the story of these cars. And I think that is just immensely valuable.
Oh, look, and I think it needs to happen.
Definitely. You need to be the custodian of these stories and then carry those stories forward because, not everybody will.
And I don't get many opportunities to tell these stories. So having you here to do this
it's literally why I'm here.
Is
I'm
a
like,
chance.
I don't know anything about you aside from the fact that you have impeccable taste, because you've got some pretty gangster cars, but I'm rarely impressed by gangster cars. What I'm impressed by is the obscurity of the vehicles that you've chosen. Because, we've got a Liberty Walk wide body R35. We have Midnight Club Supra. There's a GTR there's two GTRs down there, and then this bad boy over here that has its Autobucks number on the side of it. That's clearly done some work, going super fast in Japan. These are not your run-of-the-mill cars.
No.
And these are the sort of cars, and we were talking about this earlier when we were just sort of doing the tour, the extraordinary amount of work that goes into caring for them, finding the parts, looking after them. These are not easy to look after vehicles because most of this stuff is not off the shelf.
Nope.
This is all handmade, custom made.
And a lot of it has to be refurbished now that it's been dragged out of its...
Oh, mate, full-blown pain in the ass.
Dragged out from under its cover for the last, 20 years. When I got this Supra, it had brand new Pirellis on it, which were dated 2002. Still had the little knobs on them. All the sidewalls were cracked. Everything was cracked. just hasn't moved in so long. The flat spots were literally the tyre had gone flat.
I feel you.
But being a Toyota, put a new battery in it, put some fuel in it, fired up.
And you can't put a price on that.
You really can't.
Because we were talking about, I guess, e-fame and all these sorts of things, and people that want to buy a Lambo or Ferrari or those sort of things to sort of flex your success in life.
Yeah.
And what's interesting about those cars is they're great in your fantasies, but they're a fucking nightmare in actual life. Like I find them particularly irritating to drive around.
The old ones would be, I feel they would be painful to own, and I'm actually physically scared to own them. I would just won't. I'll leave them as a poster on my wall.
Yeah.
But I think the modern ones would be okay to live with, but that trade-off that those companies have had to make for livability versus memorability.
Correct. Because lots of them were just balls out. Like lots of particularly the 1990s cars, they were just proper dangerous.
Yeah.
And that, to me, was part of their appeal. It was like, these are so dumb.
Yeah. But you know what's funny? You watch some of these videos of YouTube videos of Jeremy Clarkson or them road testing those older cars in the modern day. And one sticks out where he road tested the Jaguar XJ220. He floored it off the lights and the radio fell out. But so stuff like that, it's cool because you can kind of relate and you know that these cars, they're not invincible.
No, they are not.
You know, they're not invincible. They don't stand the test of time. Like a lot of these Jap cars as well. But imagine having to go back and repair that on one of them. Makes me sick.
And additionally, it makes me sick.
A fuel pump on that? Yeah, no worries.
No problems.
You know, you go down to Super Cheap, pick up a Walbro, you're done. Where are you going to get one from one of those?
And that is the nightmare of European special cars.
Yeah, so a lot of respect I have for guys who maintain those cars, and I probably understand why they live on a car stacker their entire life. But I think it's funny because they always say that with those older cars, you've got to drive them to keep them in good condition.
Correct.
So you're kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place I don't want to be because it frightens the shit out of me.
And that is a big one, is you want to be able to enjoy them because they're glorious to look at, but the purpose of their existence was to be driven, was to make the noise and to feel the things. And you want to be able to do that without being totally terrified of what might happen next.
That's why I sort of kept away from them. I leave them as posters on my wall, on my desktop wallpaper. They're cool. I'd love to own one. I'm probably too fat now to fit in them, to be honest. I tried getting in a dive blower very unsuccessfully.
They're not a good car to get into in the first place.
So yeah, props to the guys that actually drive them and maintain them. Huge respect.
Oh, mate, nothing but respect. I'm not ready for that. I don't have that much free time, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I don't have that much free money, to be honest with you.
No, I'm not ready to play that game. But mate, what we see here and the stuff that we see and the stuff that you rock around in now, it's obviously not where you started. And this is what we're laughing about. We're middle-aged men now. We like nice lawns and sensible footwear. Mate, tell me about young Himmy. Where were you born? Where's your local here?
Born in Fiji.
Born in Fiji.
So Fiji and Indian. There's a few of us that migrated over here when the first coup happened in the military coup in Fiji in 87.
Yeah, right.
So my parents came over in 89. A lot of political unrest over there for many years.
Yeah.
It's only now still starting to get some stability. A lot of us left at that time. I would have been 4 or 5, I think, when I arrived. Originally, we were in Clayfield back then.
Yep.
Didn't come with much. My dad was a surveyor. Mum didn't have any qualifications. So she sort of looked after me and my brother and sister. We were all very similar ages. They were twins, 1 year younger than me. So it's 3 of us, 3 babies.
And that's pretty full on because your mum and dad effectively leaving a very difficult.
Yes.
Did your mum and dad, were they from Fiji?
They were born in Fiji and their parents were born in India.
Right. So their parents had moved from India to Fiji. They were born and grew up there.
In Fiji, yep.
So they'd been there, they
About 25 odd years. My dad went to study in New Zealand from when he was 15. Because I didn't realise how young kids back then used to leave home to do things like this sometimes.
Yeah, right.
I think he was 14 or 15 when he went to New Zealand.
Bloody hell.
Yeah, he got a scholarship to study at uni at Otago University over there. And he studied surveying, land surveying.
Far out.
Back then, they didn't have fancy theodolites and all that kind of stuff. So, like they have the modern day laser equipment.
Yeah, you just had to measure shit. And
Remember they had to use the star, the sextant and stuff like that. Yeah. It was real OG stuff. He can still use it now.
Mate, he'd be handy when you get lost.
Yeah. He's really good. And so he did all his studies there or whatever, and then he came back, got married, and a couple of years later, he had a surveying firm over there, and then they came over here to Brisbane with us. Original plan was to go to Sydney. He found it too cold because he didn't like the cold of New Zealand. So he didn't came to Brisbane, was nice. I'm glad he did. It's a nice temperature here.
Good subtropical climate.
It's good. It's not as fast as Sydney and Melbourne either, but it's speeding up.
I like the not as fast.
Me too, but I think it's speeding up. Look at the traffic now, man.
It's speeding up, but we're still a bit slow.
We are.
I like that.
Me too.
I'm hanging on to that.
Yeah.
I'm keeping my neck red, and I like that.
So I went to school we were in Clayfield for a little bit, and my dad back then obviously didn't come here with much, so he would work as a surveyor during the day and drive taxis at night.
Really?
Yeah.
Man was working hard.
He was working hard. So, and did that for a few years, and then we eventually, I think, bought a house. He bought a house in Kalanga. So a bit of North Side boy. Bought a house in Kalanga.
Sounds like we've got beef.
You're South Side? Yeah, you're South
South Side for life.
So basically, look, over the years, I did my schooling on the North Side, and from school, I was okay. I got an OP13. They'll put me in the middle of the pack.
Mate, middle of the bell curve. I'm a 14. Represent.
Really? There you go. So for the younger people listening, we had this thing called OP back then, not an ATAR. I don't know what an ATAR is anymore, how it works.
Don't know either. But for those of us, most of our audience is actually middle-aged men.
Okay.
The audience skews pretty heavily to people our age. So
Okay,
they'll be
cool.
like, yeah, what up? I know that.
So the old OP system come out in the middle. I didn't get into the course that I wanted to get into.
What was that? What did you want to get into?
I wanted to get... Actually, I'm trying to think what I wanted. I can't remember what I wanted to get into, but I just remember I didn't get into it at the time,
So you
right?
just blocked it out. Full trauma.
Just losing my memory, mate. You get to a point where only important stuff stays in and everything else just gets pushed out. Whatever that was. So I ended up getting into business management and
which uni?
University of Queensland.
Fancy.
No offense to anyone, most pointless fucking degree I've ever done in my life. I didn't do all of it. I got through a year and I thought, what is this?
So you didn't enjoy the uni experience?
No. I kept going.
Yeah.
It was just my first year of uni, and I used that as a stepping stone to improve my OP and get into another course, which was environmental management after that.
Gotcha.
Recommended by my old man.
Yeah, okay. So he said
he was in property development and he was in surveying and town planning at the time, and he said to me, he goes, I noticed that this is a bit of a trend, that the environment's becoming more important. Maybe you do something down that line. And I was always been a people pleaser and always been a bit of a yes man. Yep. Okay. All right, let's do it. I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I think at that point I was kind of like, I don't know what I want to do.
Gotta do something. Fuck,
Gotta do
that'll do.
something. Hey, environmental management. Let's do it.
Why not?
So I did that, enjoyed it. I loved that aspect of things. That could have taken me one of two ways. One was a tree hugger, flora and fauna catcher and counter. I didn't want to do that. So I took the other side, which became built environment and sustainability. So I completed that. I did a major in carbon markets, carbon trading and sustainable development.
Jeez, mate, if we had enough time, you could try and explain that to me.
Oh, yeah.
And the rest of Australia. we're still not sure.
So carbon trading, thankfully, there's not a lot of that goes on anymore, really.
It just seemed like just another tax. Just pay your bill and then you can do it the fuck you want.
Yeah, basically, it was a way for big firms to keep polluting by just taking credits off other firms.
Yeah, that was what I thought. And I'm like, this feels like a scam, but painted nicer because there's a a guy that works in comms, I'm like, that fucking stinks.
Yeah.
Okay,
exactly
no, just
right.
checking.
It
Okay.
was robbing Peter to pay Paul.
That's what it felt
basically.
like.
And the
Okay.
guys with the biggest pockets could pollute more and more and more.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's another
Beautiful.
story. So then I got out of uni, and as things go, it's all about who you know, not what you know. My dad dealt with a lot of, in his town planning and surveying profession, he dealt with a lot of engineers. Got me into work with a company called Birchall's at the time, which is they had a few branches around Southeast Queensland, engineering company, and I jumped in with them with back then a real mentor of mine, a bloke I'll never forget called Neil Thompson. So he was a very, very much of a pioneer in sustainable development in Australia. I feel he had a lot of ideas that were way ahead of their time that we really struggled to bring into that current
What
time
year
we were
was
in.
this?
This was in 2009 and 10.
Yeah, right. Okay, so you're a reasonable way along here.
I'm a reasonable way along
I thought
there.
that would have come a bit further, and I also feel like we've jumped a fair bit of time. Because when were you at uni?
I was at uni from 2000. It took me a while to get through uni because we had a family business. Well, yeah.
Yeah, so you got to back it up here, mate. Because what I love all the pointless rabbit holes. So
There are so many things.
This is good.
First time I'm doing this, but I probably just went down one path because my life has always had multifacets.
Good.
There's always been more than one thing I've been doing, not necessarily because of my own doing or my own making. It's just because I have a responsibility here, but I also want to do this and I also want to do that. So if I do them all, I can do them all. If I don't do that one, I feel really bad because I'm upsetting that person or not upholding my responsibilities. So I ended up being a person that's very good at multitasking and doing everything. So let's back it up a little bit.
Yeah, please.
When I was in grade 8, my parents bought a Indian grocery store in the back of Strathpine. We were living at Strathpine at the time. After Kalanga, we'd sold that house and they built a house in Strathpine. I remember the street was called Greendale Court. And every morning we used to walk across the train lines to get to our bus stop, which used to pick us up to take us to school. And every morning there was a yellow HSV GTSR, VR GTSR that used to sit out the front of the panel shop.
With the tri-spokes.
The OG, the real deal,
boy.
you know, back when, this is back when no one knew what a rep GTSR was. Like this was the real thing.
Yeah, big boy.
We didn't know. I mean, I knew it was cool, but I didn't know the legacy that thing was going to have.
Correct.
Sometimes you see one and it takes you back to those those moments.
Mate, the mid-90s, like that was
peak, man.
Cool
Peak
time.
T-wing. Man, I wish I could get one now.
Oh,
But what are they?
Oh.
300-400 grand proposition now?
Every bit.
Every
I
bit.
thought they were $500,000 car. Probably a bit softer at this exact moment in time, but not by a great deal.
Yeah. So they'd had this. They bought into this Indian store, and Mum was working at the time. She was assistant cook at a nursing home in Redcliffe. My dad was still doing the surveying thing. I think he had left working in the city, but he was working now for a company down the Gold Coast around that time. And you know how Indian people are pretty entrepreneurial, so he wanted to do something else as well. It's always his mantra's always been, you'll never get rich working for somebody.
He's right.
And he is. Now that I know, he definitely is right. So, but look, I mean, you got to start somewhere.
You do, and you got to learn.
You got to get that experience, and you got to learn. Otherwise, you just start doing something yourself without any experience, man. You'll make so many mistakes and upset a lot of people, especially if you're in a profession like a consulting or something, where I'm in now, where you need to know your shit. Otherwise, you're playing with millions of dollars of other people's money.
You're playing with fire, and there are consequences.
There absolutely are. So he was doing that at the time. He'd bought this store. I was in grade 8. And
which school? This was something I was.
Oh yeah, I went to.
Is it public, private? Where did you find
Started
yourself?
at a private school.
Because that's a big thing here in Brisbane. Because when you go to a country town, like the school, and that made up a big piece of your identity.
Yes,
in teenage years.
So I started as at public school, Kalanga State School. No, sorry, Clayfield. it would have been like very early. We moved around a fair bit initially, so it's a little bit blurry. But the first real school I can remember staying at for some time was Kalanga State School. It was at Kalanga State School. When I say sometime, it was like a few weeks, and then my parents were like, hey, Strathpine West State School is a better option, let's go there. So Strathpine West State School, I would have went from maybe grade 3 or 4 up until grade 7. Did my whole primary school at Strathpine West State School. And from there, my parents wanted to put us in a private school. Couldn't afford one of the big ones like St. Paul's. And I always feel bad because back then St. Paul's used to do that. Things were brutal back then, as you know.
No, it was savage.
So they used to give you, it was like the Hunger Games. St. Paul's used to do once a year this intake. Go and sit a big exam. If you did well, you'd get a scholarship and go to the school. So all the parents would send their kids there going, oh, my kid is going to get in. I didn't even get a look in, I can't remember, but I distinctly remember sitting in there, sitting that exam and going, Jesus Christ.
Going, I'm in real trouble here. I'm sorry, I don't wish to disappoint you parents, but I'm going to fuck this up so bad, so I'll just start preparing for that disappointment. Yes.
So I couldn't get into one of the more expensive, more prestigious private schools on the north side. So my parents found this school, which is quite big now, but it's just at the back of Dacabin here, just at the back of North Lakes, right opposite the Dacabin tip. And it was back then, it was called, I can't remember what it was called, but now it's called North Pine Christian College. But it's a Seventh-day Adventist college and very, very, very religious school it was. And then it was only one stream of each grade. Tiny school. So one class of each grade.
Full on.
From grade 1 to grade 12, just one class. One group of students, that's it. It's very tiny back then. So the centre's there, and I went there from grade 8 to grade 12, did my high school there. Great school. I honestly can't remember what the original name, because they changed the name on the very last year when I was there. Anyway, whatever it was. So, but during school, I also, as soon as I turned 14, I used to work in this shop after school.
So in the family
business,
the family supermarket.
Yeah. So mum was working during the day.
Yep.
Doing the cooking at the nursing home. Dad was working during the day, doing his surveying town, playing down the Gold Coast. And then we had this shop. At that time, we didn't have any staff, so we only used to open when we got home from school, from 3:30 to 7 p.m.
Bloody hell. So you'd come in and you'd open the shop for your mum and dad because they wouldn't be able to get
with
there.
my brother and sister. And we were all 13. I was 13 and they were 12. And we were running the shop by ourselves until mum got there.
Well, you could do that in the 90s.
You could.
Mate, child labour laws were probably a bit more lax then. Like, should be right.
What do you mean? We didn't get paid.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I said. They were a bit more lax.
We got dinner.
Yeah, exactly. And you're like, and you should be bloody grateful you got dinner.
So we did that for some years.
Yeah.
And
how was that? How was it running the shop and having like the adults, neighbourhood adults coming in? And
everyone was really nice. See, back then, this would have been very early 2000s. Very early 2000s. It wasn't until a lot later until that type of cuisine was really popularised. So back then it was just mainly Indian demographic customers that would come in.
Because this is sort of before specialty shops became the rage, and it became trendy to go and hunt the correct produce.
Correct. I think there was only 2 in Brisbane. One was this shop that we had, and the other one was other one was in the Valley, in the McWhirter Centre in the Valley.
Oh, really? That was where your other one was?
Yeah. No, not ours.
Oh,
the other one.
The other one.
Where we used to get some of our supplies from.
Yeah.
And this was a crazy time because now you've unlocked all these memories now that are coming back.
That's what I'm trying to do.
So
I'm taking you to a place,
and I'm sorry if I'm jumping all over the place.
I bloody love it.
But
this is great.
So it was. We never had any issues with any of the customers. Just even being 3 young little kids looking after this shop, we never had any problems.
Well, I'm sure that again, most of the people that came in were like, well, what good kids? They're doing the right thing.
Yeah.
And they try not to give you too much grief because they're probably pleased to see you working hard, helping the family business.
Yeah, because mum would get there because she started early, so she'd be there by 4:30. So there's probably an hour or so we used to man it on our own, and it was pretty scary in the beginning because
I bet it was. She's like, "What am I doing? And I've got to give change, and you got to what?" And
So back in those days, we used to get bags of spices, right? Not as you get them now, not in little prepackaged. They would come in 25 kilo bags of cumin seeds or coriander powder or chili powder, and we used to have the bags in a box.
Yeah,
and we had a scale,
and you'd scoop it out,
and we'd scoop it, weigh it, label it. Like that was our job every afternoon after school, and try and fit our homework in at the same time. And then on the weekends, when parents wanted to sort of expand the product line a bit further, the shop in the McWhirter Centre didn't have some of the stuff that we wanted. So on the weekends, we'd sometimes close the store on the weekends, and we'd all hop in the Ford Telstar that we used to have.
Telstar.
Remember the old Telstar?
Oh, yeah. Great car.
Drive down to Sydney because there's more shops there.
Wow.
Buy stock and come back in the one weekend. All of us, mum, dad, me, and my brother, sister.
Because that's a 10, 12-hour drive, depending on how fast.
It was 12 hours back then because you didn't have... I think the Chugan bypass just came in and you still had to stop. It was 100 all the way, but then you had to stop at all the little towns, which are 50 kilometres an hour. You'd remember.
Oh, I remember. Done that drive more than once.
So we'd done that. We'd sleep in the car, load all the groceries up, and then we'd drive all the way back, unload it, and then go back
to 3 kids and mum and dad.
And back to school. Back to school and work Monday morning.
Would you guys like kill each other in the back seats?
No, I don't really remember any fights or anything like that. I think it was pretty good. We were
elbows, corners, some of those old school.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure we had to do something to pass the time, mate. We didn't have phones. We didn't have nothing.
Mate, I say this to my son because we do monster road trips, and he's got his own mobile and he's got his own data, and he plays games. And he's got a Switch, and we're like, how did we do this? Where we just sat there and you just stare out the window and you just zone out for hours. I'm like, how?
I don't even remember how.
Because there was no, you just got in the car and you're like, do, and I just stare and just zone out, which luckily I'm pretty good at.
Yeah. So we used to do all this
big weekends because you'd stay down there. Did you have family or friends or?
We'd just sleep in the car, load up and then leg it back.
Holy shit.
Yeah, it was crazy. It was crazy. We didn't really have any family here at the time. Wow. It was just us. So that's what they were. We did that, and that was all the while going to school. And then as soon as that was grade 8 to 12, but as the time gone on, we did get some staff in and all that. So
a little bit of help.
That's right. So that level of intensity for us sort of reduced over time as the business sort of grew, and then. When I hit 14 and 9 months was the legal age we could start working back then. So one lady that used to come into our store at the time, she was a manager at Hungry Jack's in Kedron.
Nice.
And she's like, hey, you guys are really good. Do you guys want a job at Hungry Jack's? And I was like, hell yeah. So all 3 of us got a job at Hungry Jack's as well as doing all this other stuff.
Oh, on top of. So it wasn't see you later, mum and dad will...
no.
Because you obviously had an obligation to help with that.
Because there's 3 of us. Me, my brother and sister, one of us had probably work a shift at Hungry Jack's. Well, the other one was free to stay in the shop.
Yeah, right.
And the other one...
just alternate.
And we'd just alternate however work in the afternoons. Mum and dad, we didn't have licenses then, so mum and dad would drop us to work to Kedron and back. And then from Kedron, we ended up moving to Strathpine, Hungry Jack's for just a wee bit because we had to train the new staff that were going to open up the store at Castledine.
Yeah, right.
And we spent a lot of time at the Castledine Hungry Jack's. But by then, we'd had our licenses and things. So this was all still, around that high school period or just after high school as well. So
full on.
It was
what are you making at Macca's? You'd be, not Macca's, Hungry Jack's. You $7 an hour or something, or $8 an hour.
The kids these days, if any of you... Yeah, I'm going to say fucking kids. If any of you kids are listening, I think we were making the first year I started Hungry Jack's, it was like $5 or $6 an hour.
Yeah, and that's what I remember.
It went up $1 an hour every year after that.
Like $6 an hour, $7 an hour.
And then when I was working at Castledine Hungry Jack's, I would have been in grade 12 or 11 or 12. I was working at Castledine Hungry Jack's. I was on my lunch break, I'll never forget this. I was obsessed with Jap cars still, always. Sitting there on my lunch break so it would have been about 2000, 2001, because 2001 was when I was in grade 12 and 2000 was grade 11. So I was sitting there on a lunch break and a Bayside Blue R34 GTR pulls up right in front of me. I was sitting outside, pulls up right in front, young bloke gets out, and I was like, and I just never forget that moment. And I was like, man, I got to get one of these one day. And a lot of people might not know, but when they were first imported into Australia, they were a good couple of $100,000. They were not $20,000 or whatever people think they were. Back then, they were well over the $200,000 mark, and they were proper expensive. And $200,000 25 years ago was a lot of dollars. It's not that much these days, but it was a lot of money back then. They had like any other car, they depreciated, and around 2009, 10, 11, 12, 13, they were like 30, 40 grand.
Yeah, that was where they bottomed out.
And then after that, it started coming back once social media came about, Fast and Furious. People say Fast and Furious didn't have a lot to do with it, but it did in overseas, more so than here, because we've been exposed to them for years already. We didn't care, you know. But places like America, this and that, who had never had them, they see this, oh my God, we want them. And that's what's driving that boom. Social media mixed with...
Especially now. And they just allowed them into California, wasn't it? That was this year. Because like that was the...
34 GTRs.
Yeah, 34 GTRs. Because like that's the end of days for pricing there now that you've got that market on top of it as well.
Yeah, that's right. Well, there's a heavy demand and there's some deep pockets over there.
Deep pockets, mate. And that's a long time waiting.
And the other thing is, you know, if you buy one of them over there in that space, you stand out. It's every other person's got a Huracan, a Venador, Ferrari, Porsche, everything's there, but you rock up in a Millennium Jade Nurspec, and that's something else, because not everyone can buy them anymore. You got to find one, and then when you find one, you got to make sure it's decent.
Which is
and honest.
Hard, yes.
And then you've got to get it over and get it into the country. And it's a big monumental affair.
Massive, mate.
It's massive. You've got to put your trust in a lot of other people. And unfortunately, you can see on the forums a lot of shady shit goes down. But it's always like that in a burgeoning market, I guess.
It is. But we'll cast our minds back to this young, impressionable man
sitting outside Hungry Jack's having lunch.
Blue R34, which in my mind is the finest of all colours. I know that there's much speculation, but that Bayside Blue is very special. I think that is a beautiful car.
In the flesh, it's amazing. And it's funny, I think there's like 2 or 3 variations of Bayside Blue as they went through the Series 1 and Series 2s, and there was another special edition. So there's it's a majestic colour, man. When you see it coming at you, I imported one for a bloke just recently, and I saw it coming up the driveway when he took it for a test drive, and I was like, man, it's just the right colour for that car.
It's the right colour.
It's the
and
right
with
colour.
The black Nismo wheels, that car is just.
They are cool. They are super cool. I mean, people sort of turn around and, they're not worth the money or whatever. But but again, we digress.
They probably haven't driven one, because if you say they're not worth it, the reason they're worth it is because people found out. Because when you actually drive those cars, they're special.
Oh, absolutely. But it'd just be like someone saying, paying $50 million for a 250 GTO is not worth it. It's more than the sum of its parts. So, and that's what these things are. I'm not saying these will become $50 million, but they are a lot more than the sum of their parts.
They are. And I think back, and particularly when I'm driving period cars, I think about what was current at the time and what the other things were that were in the market. And you think about, there was a VN Commodore and then there's a fucking R34 GTR that were both produced at the same time. And you're like... because the tech in those, and again, I didn't appreciate it till I first drove one, but the way that its computer control systems sort of integrate with the way it throws its power down, and the rawness of the sound and the driving experience.
But the quality, the fit and finish of the interior, all that still has held up well. They've still held up well. But they've always been an expensive car, so they've always been looked after. In 2009, when they bottomed out, $40,000 for a car, second-hand car, was not cheap. Still not cheap. I used to sit there and go, shit, man, I'm going to get one day. Back I had a GC8 or something at the time.
Yeah. Well, we all thought they'd keep getting cheaper.
We did, didn't we?
I must say, I was like, I'll wait till they become like 15 grand and they're a junker. And then that's when I'd get one. But
yeah.
No, sorry, we digress massively.
So for me, sitting there looking at it, that wasn't the defining moment or anything like that. It was just seeing one was just the first memory I can remember of actually seeing one right that close.
Yeah. And you go, whoa.
Because every other time it was just on a video I downloaded from LimeWire or the Best Motoring magazine or something like that I'd come across, and you'd see all these wild, crazy tuners making stuff, Failside and Blitz, and they were going out to Europe and smashing speed records and doing all that. And man, what a time to be alive! Like, it was so awesome and so dynamic. I don't know, maybe I was a bit sheltered from the European cars at the time, but I didn't see them doing any cool shit like that.
No.
I'm sure they did. They were probably more focused on Le Mans and all that kind of stuff,
yeah,
maybe.
There was a lot of that, and there were there was a refinement to the European stuff.
Yeah.
And the European market back then was just BMW and Mercedes and Porsche.
Yeah.
And everything else, sort of, you didn't see many of them, but it was really just the two
Well, they were
major,
so low volume production back
very
then.
low volume, and they were still a very expensive car.
Because they were still hand built.
They were still hand built. They were still made. Everything was made in either Germany or Italy, or and you didn't see many of them.
No, and that's why I think you've always I sort of sat there and going, well, that's unobtainium.
Yes.
They'll deal with that at another phase in my life.
Yeah. Whereas these are, it's possible. I remember seeing an R33 GTR. Somebody's dad had bought one, and I remember seeing that and just going, "What the fuck is that?" Because I'd never seen one.
Yeah.
And I remember seeing it in the flesh and just being like,
Yeah.
the presence.
That's right. So I remember like that would have been like late high school when I just got my license. Got my license in, I think we were 16 and a half when we could get our learners.
Correct.
Yeah. So I got my learners, first go, I believe.
Look out. That means you could hill start in 3.10.
No, that just means I knew the road rules.
No, hang on. Yeah, the learners was just when you
Written
had to...
test.
the written test.
I just knew the road rules. And then we didn't have to go through the mandatory documenting of hours.
Correct. I must say, I'm pretty glad to have dodged that bullet.
Yep. So then when we hit 17 is when we could get our license. So I remember going for it and I failed my first time because...
Did you roll a stop sign? What did you do?
I couldn't hill start.
Couldn't hill start? Fucking hell, mate.
When you said hill start before, I was like...
oh, burn. Sorry. It's all right. It's always one of the classics.
I failed a hill start. I failed a hill start, but that wasn't... Because that's not an automatic fail.
So you did something else.
I pulled out in front of traffic that was the instructor... The assessor felt was unsafe. So he put his brakes on his side, dual control vehicle.
Yeah, so that's game over.
That was instant fail.
Yeah.
So that was that. That was my first attempt. Went back a couple of weeks later and I got it. But before all of that, I think when I was 16, my dad had bought me a car. Yes, he bought me my first car. Yes, I didn't have the money. I had some money, but not much money.
Not at $6 an hour, mate. And then working for free in the family business.
Not at six, exactly right.
Come on, old man, hook a brother up. Yeah.
So I remember we went out looking at cars. We were looking in the Trading Post back then.
How good was the Trading Post?
Man, the Trading Post was
iconic. I used to buy that all the time.
They tried to revive it by doing online Trading Post, but it just
sucked.
never worked.
No, I wanted to pick it up and like look and flick through the pages, and then you'd see the little pixelated black and white photo that was like 3 centimeters by 2 centimeters, and you're like, oh yeah, I want to go and see that.
I want to go and see that. Well, it's funny. I bought a few cars on the Trading Post after that as well, because the Trading Post kicked around for a while.
Mate, it was
believe it or not, it kicked around for a bit. It was like a hidden gem in a while for a while.
It would have been too, because some of the people that were a bit older that maybe had interest in things were still putting it there because they're like, I'm not going on that damn internet. Kids these days.
So. Before I got my license, I was practicing. I had the car. We went out looking at the Trading Post and we saw this thing in a dealership not too far away in the back of Brendale. And it was a 1988 Nissan Pulsar. I've always been into unique cars, and this will explain. This will give you the whole background as where it all started. It was a 1988 Nissan Pulsar, not a Triple S. It was Nissan Pulsar Vector, but there was an SVD version, Nissan Special Vehicles Division version, number 68 of 250 day built. So it was two-tone from the factory. So it was a sedan.
Bloody
right?
love two-tones.
It was a sedan.
What were the two tones?
Black and silver. Right? And it had an LSD from the factory.
Ooh.
And it had Recaro buckets from the factory.
Wow.
And it had a little... And this is crazy because it had little rubber boot lip. It had like the Nismo 32 GTRs all went on to get the rubber boot lip. This car had the rubber boot lip.
Amazing.
And I think it had some special wheels or some aero disc type wheels or something. But that was my first car. But I had an option there. So this is where my life could have gone two different ways. So my dad said, well, he's like, there's only two cars in this lot I'm going to allow you to buy. You pick one. So the other one was a fucking VC Commodore with a V8 that was running on gas. That's why he was interested in it, because it was on gas.
Oh, LPG gas. Sorry,
LPG.
Not exciting gas. I'm like,
Not exciting
fuck yeah, nice work, old boy. Let's send it.
Nah, bro, LPG.
LPG.
Gas.
No,
LPG.
and see, that's dad logic there. Like,
He goes, you can either have that one or that one. So that was probably the defining point in time where I think I got into that side of cars.
manual or auto V8?
That was an auto. I remember it was an auto.
Yeah, so slightly less sexy.
Yeah.
But the Nissan was a
Was a manual.
Excellent.
It was a manual. So I don't think I bought it because it was a manual. I don't know why.
That car spoke to you more than the other car.
But they were my two options. And
Do you remember the budget? Do you remember?
it was. I think it was.
I'm feeling somewhere around 5 to 10.
It was $8,000. That
There
car
you
was
go.
$8,000.
There you go.
Both cars were $8,000. So it was like one or the other, and it was a baby blue VB or VC Commodore, whatever it was.
So not a great car. They kind of look like ours. But,
I didn't know any better.
Yeah.
But you know what? They kind of look. They were both just as boxy as each other.
oh yeah, and neither of them are.
I think it's maybe the color that maybe swung me in the end.
Well, two-tone.
I didn't know at the time that it was a special edition or whatever it was. Right? I didn't know. I didn't care.
You went that looks a bit.
I was like, that looks sick.
Yeah.
4-cylinder. I think that was what got it. The 4-cylinder as well. And,
well, that was also the time where you were in one of two camps. It was only milk and juice come in 2 litres. And there was a very large divide between turbocharged small engines and big thumpers.
Yep. So, man, and that thing used to, well, in my opinion, used to fly, man.
I bet it did.
Flat shifting.
Yeah, and mate, that would have been doing 0 to 100 in what, 7.5, 8 seconds?
Never gave me a single issue, that car. And I just...
And front-wheel drive too.
Front-wheel drive, for lack of a better word, just raped it.
Yeah,
Just
absolutely. And again, terrible word.
I'm sorry I had to use that
I
word.
drove it with immense disregard for its well-being.
Exactly right. And it had no qualms about it whatsoever. It took it.
Yeah, and they do. There's something about those sorts of cars. And I've got to tell you, front-wheel drive, learning to drive a front-wheel drive car hard is a real joy. Like,
I mean, I'm not a wheel man by any means. I can't steer to save my life. I'm not very good.
That's scary, given what you steer.
I mean, I can drive. I'm a responsible driver. I cruise along. I do my thing. But I'm not I can't drift or I can't power slide. I don't do any of that sort of stuff.
You're missing out. You should.
I know I need to. But then I'm like, well, which one of these am I going to do it in? None, because I don't want to destroy them.
No, you're in a shit
So I've got to go back and find like...
Get another shitbox.
So anyone selling a cheap 370Z or 350Z, just let me know.
Or AU Falcon. Yeah, you need a pig. Send it.
So they were the two cars, and then man, I had a glorious time. The only time that Pulsar gave me an issue, and my dad will blame me for this, was a mechanical failure where the thermostat didn't open or whatever, and it went bang. It didn't cause much damage, but it was just happened to be the day after I got a new stereo put in it. So apparently it was my fault. It was my fault for getting a new stereo in the car, which caused the thermostat to stay shut and grenade the radiator.
Can you just tell me something? Did your old boy get upset at you if you left the TV on with a game console running?
I didn't have a game console back then, mate.
No.
Actually, no, I had a Sega Master System.
You had a Master System?
Too,
Yeah,
with
no,
Alex
I'm just
Kidd.
because I'm just listening to the and I'm like, oh god, I can hear Tony Nelson here going.
Dad was always super awesome because my dad when he was in Dunedin studying, he used to pay his tuition by being a rally driver.
Oh, mate, your old boy's a gangster.
He's
We're
a
gonna have to
gangster.
get him on next. That's so cool.
I've got all
Really?
these photos of him
Rally driver.
Yeah, back in the day,
Mate, who's he rallied? Because like there's some.
It wasn't like super professional, but he
No,
used
but
to
I was
make
gonna.
some money
He
out
would
of
have been hanging out with some pretty cool dudes.
Yeah.
that
I haven't
time as
really
well.
unpacked that too much with him, but I've got all these photos of him doing like pictures of him doing burnouts in Zephyrs and all sorts of stuff. And so he was telling me, he's like, yeah, I had like 6 Zephyrs at one stage, and he's like, I put Lakes pipes down on there and I remember one.
They're like, Dad, why are we driving to Sydney for spices? We could just be like, we'd be a rally family.
He was big into minis as well.
Yeah, right.
And then he had his favourite car. Well, not his favourite car. One, he was doing a race in one, a Triumph Bond Equip. It was, I think, it was a fiberglass old kit car.
Yeah, right. I have no idea what that is.
And went off a cliff with it.
Whoops.
And this would have been when, Jesus, in the 70s or something like that. And that story came about one day when he was sitting at home. I think it was sort of early 2000s, and I woke up one morning and I saw him there. He's picking at his arm with like a knife, and I'm like, "What are you doing?" He's picking at his arm, and he's like, he's cut his arm open. He's pulled out this piece of glass. I'm like, what is that? And he goes, it happens every now and then. He goes, from that accident in the Triumph, there's all this glass running around my body. Sometimes it just pops out and I have to cut it out. And I was like, oh, shit.
You fucking what?
Okay. So, proper gangster.
Like, get an MRI, old man. We can sort that shit out. Like, wow. Yeah.
So
mate, your old boy's got some good stories.
He definitely does.
Wow.
He definitely does. So, so he taught us how to drive and all that kind of stuff. I don't even know where I was talking about.
Well, we just bought the Nissan.
We just bought the Pulsar.
And it's a car that loved to be loved.
Yeah.
And you just had a thermostat go bad.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
And then the old boy
And it was
went,
my fault.
could you put a stereo in? No. And again, I remember having very similar discussions with my father when I modified my car, much to his displeasure.
So I didn't even put. Actually, no, I did put I put a head unit in. I ran the factory speakers because I was on a budget. I put some subwoofers in, but I didn't know that you couldn't power subwoofers just from a head unit.
Bugger.
I didn't know that.
And you're there just going...
And I'm like, where's my fucking bass?
Where's the bass?
Where's the bass? Meanwhile, this 12-inch subwoofer is getting 50 watts.
And it's just there going...
It's going... What's going on? Then I went back to the auto shop and they're like, no, you need an amp. And I'm like, okay. Save up a little bit more. Went to Cash Converters, which Cash Converters was right next to my mum's shop, my parents' shop at the time.
Nice.
And went in, they used to go in there all the time.
Mate, how good's Cashies? I still go in there, actually.
But they used to have mad audio gear there. So I can't remember what brand it was, but I picked up an amp from there. It was a couple $100. Put it in, had bass after that. It was happy days. So
12-inch, 10-inch, 15?
12 inches. Two 12 inches made in the boot. I made the box myself as well.
Yes.
Made the box myself, put it in. I just didn't know how to do the wiring. So I took it to the audio shop to do all the wiring.
Well, that's good. That means then you didn't learn the lesson of when you did it yourself, you'd get the whirring noise where you'd pick up the sound and go... And if you didn't wire it properly.
So this is also a problem because this leads me to today in the sense that I don't do any of this stuff myself even to this day. I'm sorry to say.
You're making your life hard. Now, the other thing I've got to get you to do is just pull your mic a bit closer. You're too casual in my new comfortable seat.
Sorry, mate. Sorry. I'm trying not to like breathe or cough into it.
That's all right. I'll sanitize it afterwards. you fire away. I want to make sure that people can hear this glorious story.
So So after that, and these are just all things you learn by just doing it.
Well, it
I
is, mate.
guess.
So you've built the box. So you've done that out of MDF. You've
Out of
done
MDF,
And
yep.
this is, again, it was much harder to figure out how to do these things. That was what I found,
Yep.
was you like had to ask somebody.
Yep.
Because our references included Encyclopedia Britannica. Yeah.
Exactly right, bro. That's another story. My old boy bought a set of those.
Yeah, mate, we had a full set of those. Like, that was a flex.
That was the biggest flex ever. And you know, only in 2024, this year, I got rid of it.
They're probably collectible now.
They're probably.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't even know where. I think I didn't take them to the dump. No, I took them to the dump and put them in the trash and treasure place.
Ah, nice. So somebody, they can live on. But yeah, that was a real intellectual flex.
It honestly was, and I barely remember using the bloody things, but
Yeah, I
they
remember
looked cool.
They looked great. I
looked
remember flipping
amazing.
through them a couple of times and going,
And with the gold edging on the page.
yeah.
I'm glad you can relate.
Mate, 90s flex.
So we didn't do too many mods to the Pulsar. I did a set of wheels over time. I probably had the car a year and a half before I handed it down to my brother when he got his license. And he destroyed it because we used to call him Destructo because that's just what he did to cars. But now, because of all that, he's an amazing wheel man. So you put him behind a 1,500 horsepower car and he'll slide that thing through North Lakes without hitting the gutter. He's really good. But me, I'm the total opposite retard. I know, I'm
Just can't.
hopeless.
It's not there. The feel is not.
I love them.
You can't have it all. Look, you can't have great taste in a shed full of fucking beautiful cars and be a good driver. Then
Just
you'd just be
can't.
annoying.
I'm being brutally honest.
It
here. I
makes
just
us feel
can't do
better
it.
to know that, you know, you're a gangster, but you're no good at steering.
I'm hopeless.
So that makes me feel better.
I'm hopeless. It pains me to bring a car to Redline sometimes. I'm like, oh, poor baby. Like, I won't do that again. I'm
Nah,
sorry.
they fucking love it. No. That's and see, I share that with you. We were talking about this earlier. I had an old Alfa Romeo, and that was the advice.
Yeah.
It was that, like, if you want this car to last, you got to fucking drive it.
Yep.
And that's the joke with the older European stuff is you got to, you know, blow the carbon deposits out.
Yeah.
I never feel bad once a car is warm. Once it has had appropriate time.
Yeah.
Mate, then you just give it hell.
I don't know. I still can't bring myself to do it. But it's just a mental block I've got. But anyway, that's all right. So what else did we do to this thing? Mate, the box was MDF and I also covered it in a marine carpet.
Oh, the marine carpet.
I did. I was a gun with the, what do you call it? The contact adhesive.
Yeah, the contact adhesive and stretching it and cutting it.
And making it
fit.
beautiful.
Did you also, at any point in time, as was the style at the time, did you put a clear back on it? Did you ever get to that?
Okay, so when I was in grade 12, towards the end of grade 12, we had to do a project. Teachers like, you need to do a major project for the year. And I was like, I'm going to make an enclosure in the boot of my car for my subs made out of MDF. And that's when I did that was my second attempt at a stereo for this car. And that's when I did the perspex and all that. But it made it worse because I used shitty thin perspex.
Oh, yeah.
I knew nothing about acoustics.
No, of course
I
not.
was
And
like,
it's
"Oh,
there
it
going...
looks-" And then after 5 minutes, the LED tubes was flying around inside the box.
And see, yeah, I had red, because you could buy neons at like Super Cheap and stuff by that stage.
Yep.
And I put like red neons all through the car and inside.
Mate, we all did it. We all did it.
was
Neons in the floor.
I have no regrets. I thought it was the coolest.
The coolest thing, but was the sound-activated neons, bro.
And flashing. And
Mate, they were next. I can't tell you the amount of chicks I picked up with those was zero, actually.
yeah, absolutely zero. No, it's like becoming, you know, a big unit at the gym. Like only other dudes are impressed.
It's like having a Skyline and only other dudes are
Absolutely.
impressed.
Yeah,
bro.
no girls are coming up
No,
and
they
going,
don't
oh, fantastic Japanese classic. It's all the fellas coming
Yeah.
up to you and
Yeah.
going, my man.
But for me, it's never been about that. It's just what I like, and that's what I like.
Oh, absolutely.
So that car was great.
So car number 2. So you're giving it to the destroyer. He goes and ruins it. What did you move on to?
I moved on to a Mark III Supra.
Fuck. Good step up.
Well, wait, and it gets worse.
Okay.
So from the trading post,
Hang on. Was it non-turbo and auto?
and it was Australian delivered.
Oh.
So it didn't even have a 1J in it. It had
what did they put in the Australian
It had the
ones?
mighty 7M, the head gasket muncher.
Oh, see, I don't even know the 7M. That's not even in my library.
7M GE, my friend.
Talk me through. What's that?
Mate, I believe the 7M was just Australian version of a watered down inline 6.
Wow.
And they did do the GTE. I don't know why we got the 7M and everywhere else got the 1J, but we got a 7M
Like,
over
what a turd.
But it was a glorious car.
Look, it again looked sick, and you would have been the coolest guy at Broadwater car park.
In the year and a half I had it did 2 head gaskets.
Great.
And it was auto, non-turbo. Back then I couldn't afford coilovers. I didn't really know what they were. So I didn't even buy lowered springs.
Just
I went and
cut
got
them?
I went and got the springs reset.
Ooh.
Because I was flash.
That is flash.
Remember them? They used to heat them up and reset them.
Oh, well, again, mate, my friends weren't that flash. We would just cut them. So,
So I got them reset, which caused them to be incredibly springy.
who would have thought? Fuck.
And everywhere you go, the car's doing this.
As a bloke with an interest in engineering, just a passing interest, you'd think that.
I didn't think much through.
No, cause and effect. It catches up with you.
Yeah. Put a gangster stereo in that too.
Absolutely.
Because that's all I had. I didn't have a turbo or a manual gearbox.
Yeah, but you look cool as hell.
But I didn't care back then. I didn't give a shit.
What year is this? I'm just trying to apply some context.
This was my first year of uni.
So this is
2002, mate.
Oh, mate. So Fast and the Furious has just happened. Orange Skyline is now the GOAT.
Yes.
And you're driving. What
What
colour was it?
A white Supra, slammed on 18-inch of what I believe were like a rep of a BBS LM. They weren't genuine. They were some sort of rep I bought from somewhere. And it was slammed with reset springs on BBS LMs. Wow. And at the time, the lazy headlights, they were pop-up, remember? The lazy headlights were a thing. That I didn't know how to get them or where to get them from. So the Toyota Supra back then conveniently had these little knobs you could adjust the headlights with. So you could actually...
And just make them
look
just
sleepy
right.
eyes a little bit.
Yeah.
But the catch was, if you actually had to turn your lights on and off, they'd go back.
Oh, no.
Then you'd have to get out, reset,
and fix
them again.
Mate, but look, this is the high price of fashion, all right? This is
what we used to do, bro. This is what we used to do.
So this is 2002.
2001. 2002.
So, and again, this is like Broadwater car park. Were you part of that?
I wasn't
scene?
even.
I wasn't in cruising.
Scene.
You weren't.
No, I was still first year uni.
Wow.
Still first year uni. But that's what
that was a time.
And then I met this guy there who I'll never forget. This dude. It was my first day of uni. First day of uni. I got there, Castledine campus of UQ. When the Castledine campus existed, it's gone now. It's now a department. It's now a state government.
Yeah, right.
Offices and shit, whatever. And this guy called Justin just happened to sit next to him at the first lecture, and he's a little white kid with glasses, and we just got to talking, and I don't know how he asked me. He was like, "Oh, what car do you have?" Because he goes, "Oh, how'd you get here?" I said, "He got here in my car." "What car do you have?" And me being me, I was like, "Oh, JZA70 Supra." They weren't called a JZA70. The Jap ones were a JZA70. The Aussie ones were a MA70. So I was like, JZA70 Supra, bro. Not thinking he fucking had any idea what it was. And he goes, "Oh, really? You've got one of these? Have a 1J?" And I'm like, actually, no, it's an MA70.
Oh, ouch.
that really got me.
Ouch. I can actually feel that. I can feel the shame.
And then I was like, "Oh, what do you have?" And he had a MZ20 Sora. So we became
epic,
instant mates.
Yeah.
Right? MZ20 with the 1G GTE. So the 2-litre 6-cylinder, I think it was. Tiny little 6-cylinder motor. Twin turbo. Automatic as well. White, two-tone white with the gold. We became mates. He introduced me. Within the next couple of weeks, he introduced me to Initial D. And that's when I discovered what drifting was. So he schooled me up on that and gave me all the... when we had CD burners in our computers, burnt me a copy of all the episodes on a CD. And I was in touch with him for many years, but in the last few years, I haven't really spoken to him, to be honest. I don't know where he is, what he's doing. Sometimes you just fall out of touch. But
mate, you do. Yeah.
Yeah. But I always remember him. He was...
Mate, he got you
a good dude.
Yeah, and he got you into that world too.
He did.
Really.
He did. He did. So I had that car for a while. What else did I do to it? Oh, mate, you'll remember this. Snap-on seat covers.
Hard to forget. Bright red. Again, very fashionable at the time.
Yeah, I had them.
fashionable.
And the good thing with my Supra was it had cloth seats, so the seat covers you didn't want sliding
they didn't
everywhere,
slide.
right? So that thing was gangster when it wasn't overheating it in the shop.
Yeah.
And at the time I had that, well, then I got rid of that car. Oh, that car gave me the scare of my life one day. I was driving home from work, from Hungry Jack's Castledine, and I was doing 80 Ks or 70 Ks an hour on Gympie Road, heading towards North Lakes. And then all of a sudden I was turning a corner and I lost steering. My steering column had fallen out. So I was doing 70 Ks an hour and my steering just was spinning on the spot like a top.
Oh.
And it just so happened that the car was in need of a wheel alignment and it pulled me over to the side. And I was so lucky, man, that I'm still here today.
That's
talking
terrifying.
about. So the little pin that holds the telescopic steering column in place, in the event of an accident, it's designed to collapse on itself.
Yep.
That little pin, so it doesn't impale you.
Yeah.
That little pin must have deteriorated and fell out, and then the steering column collapsed, and then I had no steering. And I was in the middle lane on Gympie Road, and my wheel alignment was bad, so it slowly pulled me over to the side. I dabbed the brakes, and I got out of it. Lucky that car gave me a scare.
Mate, that is not a good time.
It was not a good time. It was not a good time, but it was fun.
Oh.
And I think I put I put some sort of cannon on the back. We had to put cannons on the back.
Yeah, you had to put a cannon. Oh, and you had to do it at that angle where it was low to high, at like sort of 30 degrees.
So my horrible automatic Supra would just go.
Boom. Yeah, like the VNs, mate. It was
Yes,
fantastic noise.
And so that car, mate, I love that car. No matter all the shit it gave me, what a car it was.
Target top, hard top?
Hard top.
Hard top.
The only saving grace of that goddamn car was the fact that it was a hard top. And then so at that time, I'd left Hungry Jack's and I started chefing. So I started chefing at a Mexican restaurant.
Natural transition. So you went from flipping burgers
Yep.
to flipping enchiladas.
Correct. So I started chefing at a Mexican restaurant, and then I met this kid there called Ash.
Now, please tell me it was Montezuma's, or was it a little bit more authentic?
It was called Enchiladas.
Oh, get out.
Do you remember in Aspley? It was in Aspley where the Aspley Coffee Club is still
Mate,
to this day.
I'm from the fucking south side. I don't
shit,
even
you don't know.
It's
You don't know.
You know, like in Command and Conquer, where
Okay.
you'd have to uncover new worlds,
Yep.
and you couldn't see.
Okay.
I can't see much past.
Do you know where the hypermarket in Aspley is?
No.
No, okay, forget it. Well, for those of you who know where the hypermarket in Aspley is, in front of that, there's this big complex where Cheesecake Shop is, and across the road from that is the coffee club. But in that big complex where Cheesecake Shop is this big Mexican restaurant there called Enchiladas. I would have been 18 at the time, and I was like sous chef over there, cooking up a few nights a week. So
How did you talk your way into that?
Actually, a friend of mine got a job there, and then they got me in.
And swung you in because
That's how it happened.
you have no experience. How the fuck are you getting?
No, I started as dishy.
Yeah,
and then
okay.
within 2 days, I went to starters.
Well, you would have been a great dish picker. But mate, I've been eating shit for years. This is easy.
So
A smile and a good attitude.
Yep.
And they go, fuck, this kid's going places.
So I was a dishy for probably all the 2 days, and then from there they put me onto starters. I picked that up pretty quick, and then from there I went to dessert, and I picked that up pretty quick. This is all in the space of a couple of weeks, and then from there they're like, "Hey, do you want to be like assistant to the chef?" And I was like, "Yeah, done." Eventually went on to be the chef because the chef left, and then I had no training or anything like that.
No.
Chef left, and I was like, "Well, why hire someone? I already know everything."
Yeah. Okay. It's
So
not
I
that
just
hard. Do it.
Took that. And for a guy that doesn't eat beef, I was cooking up mean steaks, bro.
I'll bet.
I learnt one trick. How to check the tenderness of a steak. You know this trick?
I'm aware of this.
You're aware
trick,
of that one?
But mate, share it for the people that might not be as into meat.
I think it was because like I don't eat beef because I'm Hindu. I did when I was at Hungry Jack's, mind you. And
Well,
to
that's not really beef, so it doesn't matter.
to this day, the bacon deluxe still haunts me, bro. Every
you
time I
smell it
drive
and you're
past a HJ's, I'm like, oh,
Talk dirty to me, HJs.
yeah. But then and have a bit of a pang of conscience. I'm like, no, I better not eat that. Vishnu will get upset.
Fair.
So, so I think it goes from memory, and haven't done this in a while, but I think when you cook a steak rare, it should be your relaxed. So the fleshy part of your thumb at the bottom of your thumb, if you press that in a relaxed hand, that
Feels
should
about
be a
right.
rare steak.
Feels about right, yep.
If you touch your index finger to your thumb,
Here we go.
I think that's medium rare.
I wouldn't say.
No.
Yeah.
I think that's blue steak.
Yeah, that'd be blue.
Blue, medium rare,
Yeah, medium rare.
medium,
Medium.
something or other after
What comes
that.
after medium?
I don't know.
There's
Medium well.
Medium well.
Medium well, and then well.
And then fucking ruined.
Yeah.
Is the next one. Yes.
So that's it. That's the little trick I learned back then. Not that I've ever had to use
That's
it
actually
again.
surprisingly, as a man that doesn't mind. Yeah.
What do you reckon?
Mate, I reckon that's real close because, look, personally, I've moved on to temperature probes because, again, I'm at that middle age where, and I actually, I work in Fahrenheit because most of the stuff I like to cook is Texas.
Yeah, okay, fair enough.
And so everything is in
Yep.
old money.
Yep.
And so it's just too fucking hard to
Yep.
convert it to Celsius. And
So
no,
I think
that's
I was
my accuracy.
there. I think I was chefing there for a good couple of years. And along my travels, I met a few people. I met one bloke is his name was Ashley, a young fella. He was obsessed with my Supra. So when he got his license, first thing he did was buy it off me.
Really?
Otherwise, I don't know how else I would have sold that.
No, fuck. And you're like, good on you, mate. Glad you don't know what you're doing. That's
So he fell in love with it. He bought it. And then I went on to, I was still working there. I went on to get a GC8 WRX, which started my love affair with Subaru.
Yeah, you don't like head gaskets, do you? You just fucking hate them. You just wanna punish it.
Such a closet Subaru guy.
Are you?
It pains me. I love them.
They were also pretty gangster, I must say. Because again, and as a man that lived through the era of when they were the criminal's car of choice.
Ram Raiders
they were just a badass car.
They were badass.
And they had that reputation of just, stick it to the man.
Yeah.
Go fuck yourself sort of thing.
I don't know if the younger viewers will know, but the GCA WRXs, they used to get stolen and put through shopping centre.
Ram raids
through ATM machines, shop fronts. They was the car of choice. Every week there was a Subaru getting stolen, WRX, and getting punched into a building.
And they were they were the getaway car.
They were the
because
getaway
they could
car.
outrun everything.
Anything.
They had SS Commodores and stuff as police chase cars.
And these things were
and they would just fucking
sick.
smoke them.
So I got my red GC8.
And please tell me it had the big 45-degree cannon and made
Not at that time.
but it made the glorious bob, 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 bob.
It did.
Because they did make a good sound.
The guy that I bought it off was an older guy.
So the car hadn't been ruined.
Hadn't been ruined. It had been very lightly modified. And so that would have been like 2003 maybe. And that car was $22,000 back then.
Yeah.
So
Because what year is that? Because again, your
the car itself,
alphabet of cars.
The car itself was a 94 model.
Oh, like proper.
Yeah,
Original.
original
Yeah.
GCA, one of the early ones. And
So you didn't have the PIN code.
correct, no
shit
pin code, no
on-
pin code
yeah.
shit on it. So I'd never had to deal with that. But so it was one of the original GC8s, and it was red. It had, I think he chrome plated the factory wheels. Remember they come with a kind of a 5-spoke?
yeah.
He'd chrome plated them with the red and lowered it slightly. Didn't have a cannon, but it just had like a muffler delete or something. So it had the burble. And that's about all. It had the standard manual WRX.
Yeah.
Standard hood scoop and all that kind of stuff. But man, it was a little rocket ship.
Great car.
And that car I went on to, I did a C West body kit on it. Sea West body kit.
So
which,
this is where you started getting serious.
this is auto salon. Now we're moving into my auto salon era. 'cause
Look
I had an
out.
auto salon
I
era.
am so excited about this. And this is why we can't ever rush through anything, because the fact that you had an auto salon era just makes me so excited.
Dude, you could keep me here for hours now.
Yes, please. Let's go.
So
Talk me. Even how did you? How did you even have an auto salon era? How did you
auto
fall
salon
into
was,
that
auto salon
world?
was the thing back then. Why else would I have loved the GC8? Because they were the king of auto salon, bro. They were the king. The Osmond's green WRX with the orange tiger on it.
Do you know what's funny? When you said that in my mind's eye was that green, the Osmond's WRX. That car was something else.
There's no more iconic Subaru on the planet than that car, in my opinion. And
Because that was off its head, off its head. Because you looked at the level of work and you're like, this is just mayhem.
And this is the thing. People think Sex Spec was just gaudy crap, but man, the amount of money and work that went into it, and airbrushing and custom leather interiors and light work and
everything
wiring.
was shaped, and custom dashes and custom boots, and just everything was handmade. It was all made, timber or fiberglass or.
For this one event that rolled through your city once in a year, and you spent every dollar you had making your car worthy of being in there.
Of being, and what was it, trying to become, top 10 auto salon or whatever it was, or Final Battle or.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, to get invited to Final Battle, which I never got to because, I spent a lot of money, but I never got down there. That was for the elites.
Because the level was so high.
But
and
I
the
think,
Sydney cars
and I think with the Final Battle, you had to physically go to all the other auto salons with your car, and that was something I couldn't do. Too hard. Didn't have the desire to go that far. Just wanted to be in the scene.
Just wanted to be
show
part
the
of
car. Yeah. But it was funny. The Subaru was never my auto salon car.
Really?
So I just built that for the street for a couple of years. Back when I knew this is also when I learnt the importance of ECU tuning and dyno tuning of vehicles. I just thought you add a turbo and you add an intercooler and you add an exhaust, and magically they all work together and give you more power.
Well, that's what I learned from reading Hot Fours, was you just buy the shopping list and you throw all the shit in and just, hey, presto.
That's right. So I did all that, and my car wasn't very fast and drove like shit.
No, it would have been fucking awful.
So I was very dissatisfied with it, eventually sold it to Ashley, from the same Ashley from the Enchiladas.
Oh, get out.
Who loved my Subaru as well.
Of course he did, because he went, hang on, you've stepped it up here. You got me on a stitch up with your Supra, but I can do better.
Yep, that's exactly right. So then eventually sold the WRX and did custom leather interior.
Boys. What colour? Was it tan?
No. It was black and red.
Ooh, black and red.
Black and red.
Sorry, I just remember tan leather everywhere.
But
did you have the checks or what?
No, I didn't, because I didn't have the budget back then to do it myself. So what I did is I found a mate had another WRX who wanted a stock interior to restart again, so I bought his old interior.
Beautiful. And
my car was red, his interior was black and red. It all sort of worked.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And I thought, while I was there, I was like, hey, man, what are you doing with that bonnet on your car, which has the beautiful 3 gauges sitting on its side? Very proud.
Oh, the chrome,
chrome
gauges on the bonnet. The Autometer Pro Comp.
Yes, my man, you know. So I got that bonnet off him. His car was also red. Got the bonnet. He had a red STI wagon. You don't see many of those anymore. Red STI wagon, and this thing. I still talk to this guy these days. His name is Von Fink, and he does hand art on lowriders and stuff now.
That's so cool.
But he was originally a WRX boy.
Oh, mate. But the chrome gauges on the.
Iconic,
it's hard
bro.
to describe how cool that was.
That is still my favorite auto salon mod of all time.
Just next level of cool.
Yep.
And it makes no fucking sense when you actually think about it. But there was something about that was just so boring.
But hey, they were waterproof. They worked. It was annoying when they got moisture in there.
Oh, bloody bet it was. You wouldn't be able to see them. Not very useful, but
But back then, I didn't know what the fuck they were reading anyway, really.
No,
I was like, oh,
you
yeah.
just got to have the gauge because it looks
And it was
cool.
stupid. It was like battery or something.
Yeah,
You don't
absolutely.
even want-
Just put terrible things in there. You'd have, your voltmeter. Yeah, exactly. You look at them and you're like, what the fuck?
Mate, I was buying gauges and I didn't know what they were supposed to be for. I was like, I just need gauges.
No, you just got to have the gauges. And you had with the orange, because again, that was also Monster Taco.
Oh my God.
Mate, Monster Taco with a shift light.
I had one in my Pulsar, the Pulsar.
Mate, that was, again, it didn't matter how slow your car was. The Monster Taco in the corner with that, and those shift lights were bright enough to like nuke your eyeballs.
The worst mistake I ever made was to pull that yellow cover off the light and drive with it and send it.
Ouch.
I change you hit up the revs and this thing would blind you. Like, this was a bad idea, bro.
Yep, I got it changed now.
That's a bad idea. So I'll never do that again.
No.
But that was the one and only time I had a Monster Tack. Never had a Monster Tack after that. But you had to go through these phases because it was just the thing to do.
Oh, and also checker plate floor.
I had checker plate floor.
Checker plate floor mats.
Yep.
That was the cool. I wanted that and I couldn't figure out how to.
I had I had to get them custom made for the Pulsar because I don't know how else you would get them anyway. So they were just custom cut out, stuck in there. That was cool. To me, that was cool.
Until it was hot. I always think about the stuff that like checker plate floor mats and then like the chrome or metal gear knobs in Australia,
they
in
used to get
Queensland,
so
in
hot.
summer, and and you're like, we didn't think this through, did we?
No, and you have to get like a
Gloves
piece of
or
material or
towels
something, and then
because you couldn't change gears because you're like,
no. So the Subaru went, and then after that, my dad had bought my mum a brand new 2004, I think it was, 2004 or 2005 Land Cruiser Prado, black one. She hated it. And I'd sold the Rex, and I was looking for a new car, and I was like, I just discovered, like, I was fully into 50 Cent at the time. You can see where this is going.
I can't wait. If it has spinners, I'm going to be so happy.
I was into 50 Cent at the time. I thought I was
Mate, who was not into club?
And all the rap videos would have their Escalades with 22, 24-inch rims. And this was my little pimp era, I call it. This was heading into the auto salon.
What a chapter. See, this is why we can't fast forward through time. This is so valuable.
So, and I think, what was I doing at this time? I was at uni. I had no longer working at the restaurant anymore. Well, while I had the Subaru, I did change jobs. I went from chefing at a Mexican place to chefing at a Portuguese place. So I did that also for a year this was WRX time.
Natural transition.
I've cooked a lot of food.
Fucking oath.
Cooked a lot of food. And then that was a great, because it was my friend's shop, and we used to park our cars right out the front. So when we were working, we could see our cars right there. That was when Harry's Diner was around.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Harry's Diner, bro. What road is that? Windsor?
Yeah. Newmarket.
Whatever it is.
Yeah, that one.
In Windsor.
Yeah.
So we used to finish up work and go to Harry's Diner, and that was, man, there's so many things just happened all the time. So I'm just like retracing, because it's just been this, like, it's just madness. The last 40 years has been tremendously amazing. So yeah, the WRX got a lot of work out at Harry's Diner. And then I was sold a Rex.
Yeah, and we're going into your pimp era.
We're going into the pimp era.
I can't wait.
The pimp era come along together with the Jap, because I was still in my Jap. I still love the Japs. Love the Jap cars. And I was obsessed with the VIP style back then. We know where they used to get the big Toyota Celsius with the massive wide body kits, huge exhaust, slammed.
Mate, I was looking at Junction Produce cushions in Autobarks the other day.
Junction
and I'm
Produce.
like, yeah.
And the little tables and all this cool shit, man. I was obsessed. This is why I'm not a wheel man, because I never got into all the racing shit. I'm just the cruiser guy, right? So VIP was my thing. And I was my dad was like, I bought my mum this 4-wheel drive.
Yeah.
And
No good.
no good. She doesn't like it. And I was looking for a new daily. So I don't know if you remember back in the days a mob called Airy Speed.
I remember well.
Airy Speed. Airy Speed just so happened to be selling their work Tarago, their shop Tarago. It was a Holden cherry black Tarago with a full Airy Speed body kit on it.
Because they were a big deal. Like they were
Bubble Tarago.
huge.
Airy Speed was massive. Airy Speed was like massive.
Humongous.
Yep. So they were selling their Bubble Tarago at the time, which had a mad front bar, side skirts, rear bumper. And I was like, oh, this is sick. Had some shitty rims on it. I was like, whatever. I think I paid $8,000 for it. That was my new daily. Manual Tarago rear-wheel drive.
That's actually awesome.
It was awesome. Affectionately known as the...
Yeah, the party bus.
Yes, basically. So we used to go. We could put 9 people in there. So we used to go every weekend with all my mates, my brother and everyone. We're all in that car.
And you'd have a subwoofer in there for sure.
Holy, that car! Yeah, I did 2 little integrated ones in the back corner.
Thump.
That out of all the cars, that probably has the most memories. All the seats used to fold down flat. It was amazing. So it was my daily. So I bought that, and I was like, and this car taught me a lesson on wheel specification, because I saw the four-wheel drive, the vans in Japan. I'm like, man, how do they get these massive wheels under there? Not realizing that they put fucking wide body kits on them. This thing didn't have a wide body; it just had the big skirts and bumpers. And then so I jumped on Boost Cruising, and I found someone selling a set of SSR Viennas, 5-spoke chrome VIP rim.
And you swapped them for a fish tank.
No, I bought them. And hey, and for all you people who think that these wheels are only expensive now, these things would cost me $5,000 back then. Right? They still cost me $5,000 back then. So nothing changed.
They've always been expensive.
They've always been expensive. So I bought them, and the rears were like 18 by 12.5 or 13s. And you imagine how that went on a stock body Tarago?
Not well.
No, not well at all.
I reckon you would have had trouble finding rubber for those too, just quietly.
So I bought the wheels, and I'm like, oh, fuck. They don't fit my car. So I didn't know shit about offsets and specs.
No,
right?
you just bought big ones.
I just bought big ones. So
You
I'm
got
like,
the stud pattern right at least?
yeah. So this is when I got determined. I'm like, I'm going to make this work. So I happened to have at the time found a fab guy that used to do some odds and ends for us. And I was like, hey, man, I've got this Tarago and I've got these wheels. Can you make them fit? And he's like, I'll have a look. And he calls me up next day. He said, yeah, I can do it. But we're going to go metal flares, and blended it all into the front bumper, rear bumper. So the flare, like this thing was serious business, man. Metal flare, 6-inch wide flares all the way around. And I've got pictures of this car on my Facebook.
That's wicked.
And he's like, we've got a problem. He goes, we've got a sliding door on the side. Oh. So this is how good people were back. He made a custom hinge for that sliding door to still work.
Are you joking?
And clear the
further.
flare. Clear the flare and close back perfectly.
That's massive.
So I had a cherry black Tarago with a full body kit, 6-inch wide flares, like blended flare, molded flares, look proper, not just bolt-on stuff. And then these big wheels under it, and that was my daily. And then that car,
what a pimp!
So, and because I was working that, so after I'd left the enchiladas, I left the Portuguese place. I went to work in the shop full time while I was still doing uni. Meanwhile, all this time I was still doing uni in the background. So I went to uni part-time after that, and I did the store full-time because we just opened up, we were expanding. We'd opened up our third store. Second one was in Mount Gravatt. My brother was looking after it. Third one was in Cannon Hill. Still got that one to this day.
Really?
So I was looking after that store, so I'd have to go and pick up stock and things from suppliers and stuff. So, man, I used to put a ton of 1,000 kilos worth of flour into that car, and it was already railed.
Tarago was perfect for this.
It was already slammed, and then this thing would be like that far off the ground, and I didn't know what's a load rating. I don't know what a load rating is.
Well, I mean, 9 people, so I mean,
Yeah, so this thing was like, man, I used to do like 70 down the highway just so it wouldn't rip the flares off when it had a ton of plain flour in the back. You know what I mean? So that was my daily car, my delivery car. And I had to redo the body kit twice because I trashed it from doing deliveries.
Yeah,
just because that's just what I wanted to use as my delivery van.
Fair enough. I mean, if you got to do something, do it with style.
Full VIP Tarago.
Yeah.
And that Tarago also helped us when we opened up our store down in Surfers. We had a store in Surfers as well for a while there. So I used to put all the shelving, transport, all the stuff from set up this, like that car was amazing. It did. And eventually I ended up, what did I do with it? Oh, I swapped it. Anyway, we're skipping ahead again. So I had the Tarago when I first bought it. At the same time, I was like, oh, well, my dad's like, oh, well, what are we going to do with this thing? And I said, look, I'll have it. I'll take it and I'll make it into, so my Tarago was a daily and then the Prado was the auto salon car.
Right.
So first thing I did is I took it to my stereo guys. And I was like, hey, you guys want to sponsor this epic stereo build in this car? And I said, I've got some plans for it. And they're like, okay, no worries. So they basically pulled out the interior. They made a custom fiberglass sub box from the center console up the middle of in between the front seats, all the way back over the rear seats. So I had 4 subwoofers up the middle of the car. So now it was a 4-seater, not a 5-seater anymore. Or not a 7-seater, sorry, because the 2 back ones are no longer. Because I built a massive sub box in there too with 2 MTX Thunders in it, Thunder 9500s, because MTX was the king. I think it was running nigh on 20,000 RMS watts through that sound system. It had like 6 or 7 capacitors, a few batteries. And this thing was gangster. And then we retrimmed the interior in a sandalwood leather and suede, roof, everything. That's a big interior to trim. Yeah. So I did that. LED lights all around the subs in the middle, and they were all upturned.
Oh, mate, they had to be upside down.
Upside down.
That was the rules.
That was the rules, right?
Yeah.
And they were solid metal, so when it got hot, I couldn't put my hand on them because they were fucking hot. So I was driving like this. But we don't care about those things, right?
Irrelevant.
And then, I was watching a 50 Cent video, and I was like, man, these guys got these 4Bs with scissor doors. Oh. So I went and brought over a set of scissor door hinges from an Escalade.
Oh, no.
From eBay or something.
Yeah.
And we put scissor doors on the Prado. And all these pictures are on my Facebook too in my photo albums.
So this is your fabricator mate who did the...
Yeah, he did all of this.
Oh, mate.
The stereo guys were separate, but this guy did the scissor doors.
Fabricator dude.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then I was like, well, we're going this far. Let's suicide the rear doors. So he suicided the rear doors. So they are now open backwards. Oh. And the fronts were going forwards. And I was like, well, while we're at it, let's shave all the door handles because that's what we used to do.
That was also the style.
Shave the door handles, put popping solenoids in to open the doors.
Yes.
The poppers. Shave the tailgate.
Mm-hmm.
So because in Australia you couldn't get a Prado without the spare tyre on the tailgate.
Yes.
And I hated that.
Yeah, because they didn't have the underneath.
Correct.
Like in the Saharas and stuff.
Yeah. So I hated that. Only now you can buy them.
Correct.
Previously you couldn't. And I was like, well, this is shit, so that's got to go. Ripped the whole skin off the tailgate, reskinned it so it was all flat.
Nice, yes.
Man, we did some shit.
Didn't you?
The first attempt at smoothing the tailgate out was just,
I can't imagine that went well.
just filling it with bog and shaping it.
Please tell me it was builder's foam as well.
I don't know what was in there. We just, whatever we could fill up, there was like a divot where the spare wheel went.
Oh, yeah.
So
I'm familiar.
You just put random shit in there.
Yeah, just fill it up.
Just whatever.
Pat it out.
Bumper cutouts and we'll just cut off cuts and things. Fill it all up. Lay shitloads of bog in it and then shape it.
Yeah.
And then it worked for a little bit. It was cheap and it worked. But when the subwoofers kicked in...
Oh, it'd crack it.
It all fucking cracked.
And you're like,
and I was
not
like,
as cool as I'd like to be.
This is not a great idea at all.
No.
it cracked and it got all these pinholes in it, and it was a horrible idea. But it was my idea, and I owned it.
It was speed to a solution. You got it done.
Yeah, and I'm like, okay, how am I going to fix this? Yeah. Talk to my fab guy. He's like, there's another way, but it's expensive. He's like, we'll pull it off, we'll reskin it all, but one piece of metal, we'll do it. I was like, just do it.
Yeah, get it done.
I don't know how much any of this cost me, but every cent I was earning was going towards this. So I did that, and then that was successful in the end. We made a recess. We made an angled recess for the angled recess for the number plate, bro.
Like on your 30 or 45 degree.
Not quite. That was subtle.
Was it?
Subtle.
Just a little kick, because this was real mini truck stuff as well.
Bro, I loved all these.
And the recessed. Oh, mate, you're bringing flashbacks.
Man,
here.
and then I was like, well, I couldn't find a body kit for this car. What am I going to do?
Oh, no shit. That's
no body. When am I going to get a body kit from Prado? So I talked to him, and I was like, I've got another project for you. He's like, what? I'm like, I need to make a body kit for this. And he's like, how am I going to do it? I said, I've got an idea. I said, just cut the bumper in half lengthways, and let's just extend it and fill it with.
I got you.
So I did that front and rear.
Yeah.
Filled it. I've extended by about 200 mil. Put some billet rods in the front air dam.
Billet rods. Fantastic.
So billet rods in the front air dam.
And then you would have had some alloy mesh behind any holes, I hope.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah,
tiny bit.
Good.
But I didn't want too much mesh because it takes away from that sort of pimp
yeah, well, it
style
does.
that
I note the mesh actually in the Supra. Yeah. Period correct mesh.
So we did that, and then,
my God.
mate, this thing was
what
like,
a car.
Yeah.
Did you get a feature in this? Did this end up in?
Yeah, went in-car audio and a whole bunch of magazines.
Wow.
Yeah. So then what else did we do? Then the paint. We had to do the paint. So Glazeret had just come out with this paint. I can't remember what it was called,
no,
man.
Chameleon?
It was like it was a Glazeret black pearl, but then they had this special thing they just come out with, which was called Ice White Flake, and it was actually like actual like diamond dust off low quality diamonds. And it was like couple of $1,000s for like a little teeny tub like this. And I was like, I'm having it. I want it. The car was already black, which was a good start.
So you could go over the top.
So I could go over the top. So he did the Ice White Flake over it. And this thing, it was so sick. Even when the car was clean, it would always look wet. Like it was awesome. It was awesome. So you can kind of forming a picture in your mind.
You have painted a word picture of pimp.
And then so I had this car for 6 years. This is my longest car I've owned for the longest amount of time. This is a 6-year evolution of this car. And it went through various stages. This wasn't just built all with one. It was like started off like this. No, we'll change it. We'll redo it. I'm just sort of summing it all up.
Yeah, like most builds. It sort of goes through stages.
It went through like 3 phases, but this was its ultimate form. When I first got it, I bought a set of 22-inch wheels for it.
Because wheels were getting bigger. This was, for younger listeners.
Mate, I remember the days when 18s were huge.
18s were huge. 18s. And then it was like 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24. Like I feel like that's about where it stopped.
Yep. Well, not quite. So we'll get it.
Jeez.
So then I started with a set of 22-inch wheels, and then eventually trade them up to a really nice set of 24s. But the ultimate form of that car, I got 26-inch wheels. It was the first set of 26s in the Southern Hemisphere. And it was supplied by Stylish Wheels in Slacks Creek. Back when Z, because I've known Z since that shop was nothing, we were good mates. He was selling wheels out of his dad's service station.
Wow.
In the one corner, set of wheels.
That's unreal.
And then I bought all my wheels from him.
Yeah, and
he organised that, hooked that up.
Because that would have been, and that would have been a challenge for him too, to be able to figure
and
all that out.
he's huge now.
Yeah,
Like
massive.
just sort of grown up and grown along with all these people.
The people that you were friends with that now, and you look around 20 years later and you're like, oh shit.
Yeah. It's amazing. It's so cool. Like, just to think of that.
Wow.
So he supplied me those wheels and tyres, and I don't know I don't remember what they cost. I don't think I want to remember what they cost.
You ignore that.
You ignore that. It was kind of easy to get rid of big wheels at the time because people were putting big wheels on the Rodeos at the time, the four-wheel drive Rodeos, with the big round wheel arches. I don't know what models they were, but
Yeah, and also the Hummers, mate, when they had their research.
but they had a different bolt
They
pattern.
had different, because, mate,
See?
they would have eaten all the chrome
Yeah,
wheels.
yeah. So then so we got this set of 26s and they were gorgeous, but how we were going to fit them because I wanted to lower the car too.
Of course you did.
So we got lowering springs. So we lowered the car 1.5 inches all the way around, and we had the body kit that was 200 mil lower than factory. So we're getting low. We're starting to get low now. I never had the budget or the burning desire to do mini truck style stuff.
Yeah.
It was too expensive.
That was a lot.
It was a lot of money. So I didn't want to go down that path. I just did it in my own sort of way. It took 3 days to fit those wheels to the car purely because of the amount of time it took with us under the wheel arches with a hammer,
Yeah, just bashing it out. And then you'd put it on again and you're like, nah. And then lift it up. You're like, no, that's like literally fouling.
So we're bashing stuff.
Nice.
And then we put the wheels on and we're like, oh, they sit too far in.
Fuck.
So I put a couple of spaces on, slip-on spaces, because bolt-ons were not a thing back then, slip-on spaces. Put some slip-on spaces on and we're like, it's not going to give us enough. So I ordered extended wheel studs, hardened extended wheel studs for the Prado. So I remember by the time we finished, I was running 6 slip-on spaces on top of each other. to get the look I was wanting.
That's horrifying. Yes.
And we're carrying around hundreds of kilos of stereo gear and God knows what else, and bog and whatever else was in that car. And then the thing was amazing. The final thing I did do is I took some inspiration from the Rolls Royce that just got released at the time, the Phantom, and I did the hood lining.
The stars.
The stars, but I did it. See, back then fibre optic was expensive, so we did little LEDs. Very painstaking little LEDs, and my guy got a programmer, so we could program patterns. LEDs would run around, chase each other on the roof.
That's cool.
It was cool. So we did that, and that car was something. It had at its final form, it had 14 TVs in it and a PlayStation 2.
Excellent.
2 in the sun visors, 1 in each headrest. So there's 4 there, 2 in the sun visors, 1 in the rear view mirror, 1 in each door.
Had to have them in the doors.
Nobody could
like down the bottom in the doors.
Yep.
Very important.
And a gigantic, I literally had like a friggin' 40-inch screen in the boot.
Correct. Yes.
And where else did I have them? Man, I had so many TVs. There was a lot of TVs and a PlayStation 2. That car was sick. And eventually in 2009, I sold it.
How did it go at Auto Salon? So you took
I got heaps of trophies at home.
Yeah,
so
stacks.
many. I never took out like the top awards because we're still competing against the Osmonds and all the other hectic like Sydney cars, crazy cars. But I got a bunch of, because I did a lot of auto salons, probably 4 years or 5 years worth of auto salons. Picked up a bunch of awards, best stereo, best whatever, blah, 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 whatever they were. But they're all still there.
That's so cool.
I even won 2 awards at Summer Nats with that Prado
Really?
in their show and shine. Yep.
Wow. That's actually a pretty big deal.
That's a big deal.
Also considering the time frame.
Yeah. When the Summer Nats was at
Summer
its
Nats
peak then.
was-
You're talking Gary Myers, all these guys were big building cars there.
To even be acknowledged.
Yeah, I got a couple of awards there as well.
Fuck.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool.
Done a lot of interesting. So all this time I was, 2009 is when I finally, because I switched my degree to part-time for the last 2 years.
See, we've only just got to 2009 now.
Correct. Which turned that degree the last 2 years into 4 years.
Yeah.
Right? So I was studying and I was working in the shop full-time, studying part-time, and then I was building this car as well. And so then basically I sold the car to an Islander guy. Sold the car to an Islander guy. I traded the Tarago in for a Subaru Forester. GT, of course, yeah.
Yes,
This thing was
good.
sick.
Did you put an STI turbo on it straight away?
I didn't do anything. I already had
Really?
stuff done
Just-
to it.
ah.
I already had everything done to it.
Mate,
And then,
how good was the GT Fozzie, by the way? The boxy, that first one. I'm like, that made
cool.
station wagons so cool.
Bro, they are, to this day, I love them.
Just the coolest.
The first car, when I started importing cars, the first car I imported was a STI Forester.
I have glorious memories. A good mate of mine bought one, and yeah, we turbo swapped it under his house.
Yeah, really.
under his rental. Yeah.
So there was in 2009 happened pretty quickly because there's a lot going on. That was when I started getting into the not quite then mucking around buying selling cars. I just didn't know what I wanted. So I got that STI Forester. And then I reasonably quickly swapped that for a V35 350 GT Skyline. Four door auto.
Yeah. People tried to like them.
People tried to like them, but not very good.
You couldn't love them.
And then, but that car led me into my first GTR. This is where the love affair began with the GTR. So I saw a 33 GTR on Boost Cruising. We used to buy and trade all our cars on Boost Cruising back then. That's just what it was. I think Facebook was around. I just knew.
Yeah, but it wasn't it wasn't what it is now.
No,
It was all consuming.
That's right. So I ended up messaging this guy because he was getting married and he needed to get rid of this GTR, needed some money. And I said, hey, would you consider this? Could be a good family car. Plus I'll give you $5,000 cash. So all in all, I don't know, probably owed me like, by the time it was said and done, like 15 grand maybe. But this black 33 GTR won its class in Targa, Tasmania. It had big Porsche GT brakes. It had friggin' like the best of the best stuff on it, roll cage seat. Like the thing was amazing, an absolute weapon.
And so it was a 33.
Black 33 GTR.
Yeah, which was very undesirable.
Correct.
Very undesirable.
Correct.
That was people were least excited about those.
Yeah, that's right. So he agreed to it. So I was like, but he was in Tasmania and I was here.
That's a moral problem.
So he's like, no worries. He goes, I will, this back when people used to do things for each other.
Yeah.
He's like, I will meet you in Melbourne. He's like, I will
that's cool.
Get the car on the Spirit of Taz, come across, meet you at Melbourne, Port. My brother had a Hyundai iLoad at the time, diesel one, when they just came out. We hired a car trailer. We drove down to Melbourne, met this guy at the port, took her for a drive. He took her for a drive. We did the deal. We swapped, load the GDR up and came back to Brizzy. And not too long after that, it was a cold Sunday morning. This thing still had semi-slicks on it. It was a cold Sunday morning. I got up and I was like, fuck yeah, this is sick.
I know how this story goes.
Let me try and be a wheelman. And we've established I'm not a wheelman.
Oh, God. Again, for a man that, engineering, fucking hell.
So then basically I literally would have done 3 or 4 corners and then I went straight. So when a GTR lets go, you're supposed to put your foot in so the front wheels engage and you can climb your way out of that slide.
Yep.
I didn't know that, so I just went brakes.
Yeah.
And I went straight head on up a 90-degree gutter, bang. Didn't hit anything, thank God. Didn't do a huge amount of damage to the car. Parts were easily available back then as well. But yeah, like it was not very drivable after that. I sort of babied it home and took it down to 101 Motorsport, which is still one of the best GTR shops around. Varun was still the owner of it, just become the owner of it at the time. And he's like, yeah, get it here. And I found all the parts and we put it all back together, basically. But that was the first time I understood the quality of real Japanese wheels as well, because they were perfect even after that impact.
Wow.
The gold Volk GTCs.
Nice. 19
by 10.5 plus 15s, I think they were. And they were still expensive back then. I paid $5,000 from Import Monster. None of this shit was cheap.
No.
$5,000 from Import Monster I paid for these wheels. And Import Monster was the guys to go to back then. And man, the wheels were it was my biggest concern because they were so expensive. I'm like, God, I hope I didn't buckle these rims.
Yeah.
They were mint. bumper I could find, headlight, whatever other damage I did was all good.
Yeah.
Got it back on the road. And then this was all still 2009. We haven't even gone to 210 yet. But this is sort of about where my car journey ended for a while. So I ended up selling that car to Steve Marrick from Insight Auto Care. He come along and bought it while it was still sitting at Varun's shop. Because I get spooked out quite easily when things happen to cars. So I fixed the car, took it home, drove it for a bit, and then all of a sudden it started running like shit, spitting out black smoke. And I was like, ugh, what is this? And I jumped to conclusions and I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to have to fix it. I literally got the car there to Varun's shop again, advertised it straight away.
Yeah.
And then Varun was too busy, couldn't look at it for a couple of weeks. And within those couple of weeks, it sold. And so Steve come along, he bought it. I think he bought it off me for 27 grand, something like that. I put up for 30, got to 27. He took it and he messaged me back the next day later. He's like, oh, just the blower valve was stuck open. And I was like, oh, fuck. So that sort of taught me not to jump to conclusions. But what a car, man. That left lasting impression, that car. And that's what gave me that real love for these more raw Jap cars, because it was roll cage, Sparco seats, harnesses.
That was a weapon.
It was a Targa. It was prep for Targa, but it was road registered. So, and then I sold that, and then I got a job with an engineering company, and I started working overseas a lot and interstate a lot. So I left the car thing for a good couple of years, 3-4 years, probably even more, almost 5 years. When I was in the country, which was a fair bit of time, I was just driving a little Camry around or whatever. I sort of had a Black RAV4 at one stage. Kind of just forgot about cars for a bit. I still enjoyed them, but I didn't really care about playing with them and stuff.
Well, you'd finished your degree. You'd done all the things you'd ever wanted to do.
Yeah.
And I guess you'd taken that probably as far as you were comfortable going at that point.
Yeah, at that point, yes.
And you, I guess, had to take your career
to focus on the career a little bit as well. Yeah. So I got my old man hooked me up with a job at this engineering company with this bloke called Neil Thompson, did sustainability stuff. So we were sort of responsible for building that division within that company, because it's a very new field at the time. The government was pumping a lot of money into green stuff at the time, heaps of money they're pumping into green programs. So it was very easy getting projects off the ground. So that if our company was working on a design for a high-rise building, we'd go in and go, okay, well, we should add this and this and this. It would give us some Green Star points, et cetera, et cetera. The government will pitch in 50% of the funding. So the return on investment for the developer is pretty good. So that's how we were getting a lot of projects through. But once the government pulled that funding, projects were hard to get across the line.
Well, people aren't going to spend money just for the, I'm glad I saved the environment.
Well, not only that, but we were sort of focusing on reducing electricity costs, running costs of the infrastructure. So I spent a lot of time doing that, sustainability engineering for buildings around the world and around Australia. Did some really cool projects. And then about in 2013 or 2012, I got posted to Victoria for a year and a bit. I was advisor to the Environmental Minister. So I advised him for a while on environmental issues, policy, et cetera, et cetera.
Now, that seems like a pretty big jump.
Man, there's more. There's more in there as well. So...
Well, you're advising policy. You only, that's a big jump.
It was because we ended up doing a lot of iconic projects that got a lot of international interest.
Yeah, right. So because you were doing this work and you were at the front of your field,
yes, it was.
You actually ended up accidentally becoming an expert.
Yeah, more or
and
less.
I guess kind of world leader in that
policy in that space. Yeah. So
wow, because you actually did the work.
Yeah, and I had a team to advise around policy moving forward for these kind of things.
Wow.
So it was pretty cool, and all that was in like a 5 or 6 year time frame from when I started.
Pretty hectic.
It was really hectic, and then I was looking after the entire government's property portfolio as well. So it
Sorry,
was
what?
yeah. So the government owns property,
Of course.
right?
Yeah, but you're looking after it, like
Well, one aspect of it.
same bloke who can't drive.
What?
Like,
So one aspect of it. So
Yeah.
basically, there's people who do repair and maintenance, and there's people who do leasing, and there's people who do all sorts of other things, cleaning.
Yeah.
But my task was to look after it from the point of the utility consumption. How can we improve it across the entire portfolio?
yeah, right.
So we took a policy approach. We looked at technology and all sorts of things, and how to reduce the government's spend by introducing policies, tech, and whatever.
And see, that makes sense because you've obviously been testing these in real world environments with
Correct.
developers.
That's right.
And since the free government money had dried up,
Yep.
you got to, yeah.
That's exactly right. So
And
it kind of it kind of worked out in an
Yeah.
interesting way.
That's quite astonishing. But what an eye-opening thing, because that's a very different world as well.
Oh, yeah.
Going from a corporate commercial developer
Yep.
and that sort of working in and around that sector to then working
in
government and government
sector.
policy. That's they're alternate universes.
That's exactly right. So from there, I learnt about what was not new at the time, but it wasn't fully utilised in terms of building efficiency, was building automation systems. So systems which basically, okay, you have a temperature sensor in this room, it'll kick your aircon on. Okay, that's a building automation in a nutshell.
Mate, when the dunny lights come on and off and
all that kind of
all
stuff.
the little things.
But then we sort of found that could be that system could be the brain of a whole host of other opportunities that we're not looking at in the building space. So we were looking at some technologies that were taking this further by utilising weather stations on buildings, which would look at the temperature outside, open windows, do all sorts of stuff.
So we would understand ambient air temperature.
All that kind of
because
stuff.
like with your heat exchangers and
Yeah,
all that sort
exactly
of stuff
right.
outside the building
So
and
if it's
times
cold
of day.
outside, why are we still cooling inside?
Yeah.
Right, all that kind of stuff. Humidity control.
Correct. Stuff that makes things work
all that
harder
kind of stuff.
or easier. Yeah.
So I was sort of touching on that when I was with the government, and then I left because we reached the target that we needed. It was 20% reduction in utility consumption, which we did, which is amazing.
That's actually excellent.
It was excellent. So, and I was like, okay, well, I'm done. They didn't have another role for me there.
Yeah.
So I left and I'm come back to Queensland, and I got a job with the council here because it was close and it was just something.
And when you say council, which one?
Moreton Bay Council, where we're
There
at
you
the
go.
Moreton Bay Regional Council. And then I got the job because I had that interest in automation, and they were looking at implementing an automation system across all their buildings and art galleries and facilities.
Well, that's it. Because for people that don't understand, Moreton Bay Regional Council is actually a significant,
A very big council.
very significant
I
council.
think they had like 2,000 buildings or something.
Yeah.
Like a large number. And a lot of them had automation systems in them, but they were all different automation systems. Siemens, Schneider, they don't talk to each other. And who's going to remember 2,000 passwords and 2,000 logins? So they wanted someone that could bring all that together on one user interface and make all their buildings more efficient. So I come up and I did that over 3 years. And now that was a pioneering project. Not a lot of other councils now are copying all that because huge savings have come from it. Not only from electricity, but from water savings. And the next step beyond that was actually automating the repair and maintenance process. So
And before you even go into that, how did you even approach this? I mean, how did you make these things? How did you extract the data?
I didn't physically do it. So
No, but did you help? You sort of help to develop the direction of
Correct.
the approach and how to
I knew
solve
what I
the
wanted,
problem.
wanted it to happen. I knew what I
Correct.
wanted to happen. I write the brief.
And then
We write the brief, and then we get the right contractor to put it together through
so
a
you
tendering
sort of
process.
tender it and go, here's. So you actually assess the problem,
Yep.
present a viable solution,
Yep, get the funding,
get the funding,
Yep.
and then help find somebody, and then help guide the project.
guide the entire project, and then monitor it, make sure it works.
And again, you're how old at this point?
I was
Low 30s? I'm trying to do the
Late-
math.
late 20s?
Late 20s.
late 20s.
Again, these are significant projects
Yeah.
for a man in his late
Yeah,
20s.
so I did a lot of great opportunities, I guess, just from you just prioritize things. Isn't it? When you put cars aside
Yeah.
for a little while, and I prioritized this, and I sort of got good at it. So that was successful. we achieved, I think, 15 or 20% energy reduction. And because we did that, we got more federal funding and
Of course.
When I finished that project, actually my contract was for 3 years. I finished with 3 months left and they had nothing for me, so I left. And actually, no, I didn't leave. I was just doing some shit-kicking jobs there for a while. Helping out. And
Make some coffees.
And I was telling him, I'm like, well, let's create a role or whatever it is. Because it's pretty comfortable there, to be honest. I was only driving from North Lakes to Petrie. And
very
it was
convenient.
Great benefits. Pay was shit, but whatever.
Yeah.
But at the time, around that time I was doing that, that's when I started flipping cars because my brother was like, hey, you should try this. I've done a few and there's good money in it. So I was like, okay. I was like, well, what's good? He's like, oh, find a Commodore with da-da-da-da. And I was like, all right, fine. Found a Commodore. And mind you, I still didn't have much money because every cent I spent on that bloody Prado.
Yeah.
So I still didn't have 2 cents to rub together because I still, when you're working in that space, the money's good, but living overseas, there's still a lot of expenses, and living interstate, there's a lot of expenses. You don't have to come back with much. So then he's like, oh, well, let's just get into flipping cars. I've seen him do a few here and there, and I was like, oh, he's doing all right. And he sort of taught me the ropes, and I was like, oh, well, let's have a go. Did one Commodore and then a few more Commodores. And then from there, I did Commodores for about a year, and then after that, I did another couple of years where I was just doing Hiluxes. And then that led into the JDM space. But in terms of my work life, I was at the council. I finished up there. Before I finished up, how I finished up is my old man had left his job and he was still doing town planning and surveying as well. And he was getting busy, and I noticed he was hiring staff and they were leaving, and a lot of turnover for whatever reason. And I was like, hey, I've noticed that you've turning over a few staff. What if I jump in and you show me the ropes and I'll learn it? And he's like, all right. So I just sent an email to my boss. I'm like, hey, I'm not coming in tomorrow. I resign effective today. I dropped my uniform off. He was cool because there was nothing for me to do anyway.
You're just treading water at that point.
So he's like, all right, cool. So I jumped in with him, and that was 2015, 16. 2016, and then I jumped in with the old boy, which is where I'm at now with the consulting business. So town planning, consulting, and now I think I'm pretty good at it now.
Well, yeah, because I was going to say, and I was trying to put it all together because I'm like, you've really figured out quite a few things, and I was wondering how those pieces tied together.
Well, there's a kind of a logical progression now.
If
you've understood the story, it's kind of a logical progression.
You come on the journey and you're like,
Yeah, so I mean, building automation was where my government journey ended. But then from there, because I still had an interest in the property space and I understood how buildings were designed and all that kind of stuff, it wasn't too, and obviously I had the engineering background.
Yeah,
it wasn't a huge leap.
It's not
doing town planning.
Big stretch because you already have such a broad knowledge base that also goes so deep in so many areas.
Yeah,
and it would have tied a lot of it together.
It really did. It really did, because I could basically hop in. I knew how to read plans. I knew how to write reports. I understood how hydraulics worked in a building. I understand how stormwater works, sewage systems. I understood all that already.
And that's the thing, that'd actually make you dangerously effective because you actually had such a broad
Well, I'm a one-man band now, basically.
You are, mate. There's not much that you wouldn't know from sort of inside and outside. Yeah. Which would come in pretty handy.
That's right. So, I knew how to put a building together. Now I know how to sort of, make it work on the land and get the approvals to make it happen. So it kind of just rounded everything off. I kind of did it inside out.
Yeah, didn't you? But that journey makes a lot of sense.
That's right, because when I first started at the engineering company after I left uni, my job was to go in and audit buildings first to understand them. So I was crawling around in plant rooms. I was taking temperature measurements, looking at filters. That's where it all started.
And just trying to understand. Because that's something that if you haven't had those sorts of roles or had those opportunities where you've found yourself in a plant room in a building, you don't notice.
You don't know this.
Aside from maybe a sign on a door.
Yeah. I did have a grand plan for council to take things a bit further with the automation, which was it never ended up getting approved because it would probably put a lot of people, well, not so much people out of work, well, maybe people out of work, but The automation system got so clever where it could basically fault find,
Oh, wow.
right? So it'd fault find based on previous history.
Yeah.
The algorithms would pick it up. So if a water valve on a chiller, for example, was regularly failing, we'd have to put the parameters in, and we'd say if the water valve fails in X number of times within this time frame, the automation system would automatically send a work order to our nominated contractor.
Wow.
And they would come out and fix it without a building facilities manager having to do anything.
Yeah. So, and again, it removes human error.
Removes human error.
Which can, again, overall safety and...
But there's the driver for me was efficiency.
Correct.
Because if that valve is failing for 3 years and the FM doesn't pick it up,
Yeah.
that could be a huge
something
cost.
catastrophic is going to happen.
Well, that too, but it's just a waste of electricity, resources, trying to... for a simple problem that could have been identified
Easily
by the
solved.
automation system and fixed straight away.
Yeah.
So that was the proposal I'd put forward, never got picked up, and that's when I sort of, okay,
Yeah,
well, my time is done.
we've gone as far as we can go in this. Yeah.
I wish I would have gone to that stage because I reckon it would have been cracker. It would have revolutionised the goddamn industry, but never got the stage.
That's all right. Well, mate, there's still time. Yeah.
So ever since then, 2016, I've been with the old man doing the town planning stuff. So now he just looks after surveying and I look after town planning. We got some staff and we just work from home. Nice, chilled, no plans to grow it. Just happy.
Just do the thing. Yeah.
Just do the thing.
Yeah.
All right, do the thing, good staff, whatever.
Yeah.
But then from 2016, and that allowed me to sort of focus more as well on the buying and selling of vehicles as well, because I was now working from home and I had that freedom, and the shops were still there, but they were all staffed. My brother was looking after that now. So I didn't have to do much on that side either. Because even while all this is going on, we had the shop at the Gold Coast, which I was running, and I was traveling to surfers every day and back, and so much other stuff has gone on in the background. This is still scratching the surface, but basically, you started playing with cars, and one of my mates, his name was Jory, he goes to me one day, he's like, man, he's like, Skylines are going up in price, you should try one. And this probably would have been 2018, 19 maybe. He's like, oh, I should try one. So we found one. My mate was selling one. It was a white 32 GTR for 26 odd grand or something. And I bought it. And I was already flipping. I was familiar with flipping cars at the time anyway. It was just a hobby just to keep me in the car scene, play with cars and kind of get back into it again. Because I'd left it for a good solid 5 or 6 years.
And you'd miss it by that point.
I did, yeah.
You forget the heartache and the sheer expense.
Sheer expense. Up until then, they still didn't have much money in the pocket. Council doesn't pay that well. Government doesn't pay that well. It's okay.
Yeah.
But it was that experience, and I wouldn't trade it for the world. Like, doing that stuff is, you still sit back and you think, shit, I actually did all this. You know?
It's crazy.
It's crazy. So... then we bought that GTR, and then I think it took me about 1 or 2 months to sell, but it made some good money. And I was like, oh, fuck, all right, well, let's just keep playing with these while I'm still working and I can still play with cars. And because I was so used to multitasking, it wasn't a stretch for me.
No, it was just another thing.
Just another thing that I just had to understand, which doesn't take much understanding.
You just keep it ticking over, particularly being a systems-based.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm not a wheelman. I can't turn a spanner to save my life, but I know how it all works well enough to be able to...
Yeah, provide guidance and direction to people that actually know what they're doing. I understand.
You know, like a race car driver who drives his car around and you can feel what's happening through your ass and you've got to articulate that to somebody else.
Correct.
I'm good at that.
Yeah, that. But that's a skill in itself.
It is. So... that's basically, that's where it's at. And then it sort of led me to when it's like anything, the longer you spend in the space, the opportunities come.
Yeah, they do.
Right? People are like, where'd you find this? I'm like, man, it just happens when being in the space.
It comes to you.
It comes to you. It does. You just got to know what it is when it comes. And if you've got the means to acquire it, you acquire it. Sometimes you have to let a few go. Like I had about 9 or 10 of cars I wanted to keep. But then I decided I wanted to expand the import side a little bit, so I started selling some of them off. And then the yellow one come along 2 weeks ago, and I'm like, I've got to have this. So it's a bit of give and take. I think it'll go down like this rather than like that. It'll go down like this.
But even when you started importing, because you brought in that STI,
Yeah.
How did you even? Because again, to import cars, to get cars out and get cars out of Japan,
Yeah.
like there's a whole minefield.
There is, and again, so I'm very good at reverse engineering things. So I used an agent, an importer, who was doing importing, and I called him up and said, hey, I want a car, something I could possibly flip. And he's like, oh, the STI Foresters are just about to become legal, so they're still cheap. Try one. And I was like, okay, done. And I'm quite attentive, and I can work things out really, really well, very quickly. My comprehension of things is really good. So I just ask the right questions here and there and in a roundabout way, and then you kind of understand how to do things. But I never wanted to go, because it's time consuming, man. To
Immensely time consuming.
apply for the import approvals, to book the ships. I don't have time for all that shit because I've got this other stuff going on. So I still don't do all that. I know how to do it, but I don't. It's time consuming. I still use that very same agent. I still use him to this day.
Wow.
It just makes my life easy.
Well, it makes your life easy. They know you, you know them, and it's a very strong relationship.
Like I could probably make a few more bucks out of each car if I did it myself. But the time is more important to me now.
Well, you got to buy back the time. This
Exactly.
This is the trick.
That's it. You're spot on. You got to buy back the time. That money has a time value as well.
Money has, mate, the fact that I don't even know what day of the week it is, but like it's the middle of the day.
Yeah.
And the fact that we can sit around for a couple of hours, like obviously we are letting things slide.
Yeah.
But having the capacity to allocate hours in the middle of a week, to me, that is the sweetest victory in life.
Oh, it's so good just to be able to just do it when you want to do it.
Yep.
That's the main thing.
Like that's the game, and this is the thing that I think is actually lost and is probably harder to flex on Instagram.
Yeah.
That you win the game when you can actually understand that allocation of your time is the most.
It's so true, and if you can put good people around you that understand your thought processes and your emotions and your expectations, and you pay them to take that load off you,
correct,
you can do way more.
Way more. Yeah, when you learn to delegate and let it go. And
so that's the next phase, I guess, for me moving forward is
doing that.
Is that now
because
that
and that's amazing. Okay, so you're using the same agent to bring and he helps you, and then obviously
he's one of my best mates. Every time I go to Sydney, we'll hang out. We'll chat shit, and he's good.
But see, that's fun. And doing business with people whose company you enjoy, that actually took me a bit longer to figure out. But that's really special, is when you're actually doing business with people that you genuinely enjoy.
Yep, and it was random. Like I don't know where I saw his ad. He was just very fresh. He just started importing. And I just rang him up and I'm like, hey, man, I've been buying and selling internally in Australia for ages. So he knew who I was. And I'm like, look, I just want to partner with somebody, hopefully for the long term, and see where things go. And that's where it sort of ended up. It's still with him just because I'm comfortable and I know he knows what I need. I know what he needs, and it's easy. I don't have to recreate the wheel with somebody else again.
No.
Many people message me, but why don't you use me? I charge less. I'm like, I don't care.
Don't care. No.
I don't care because I get a certain quality.
Yeah. There's a quality and there's a loyalty, and that's something that you actually can't buy.
You can't, and then that gives me the confidence to do things like pre-sell cars while they're on the boat.
Well, I've actually watched you doing that. I'm like, how the fuck?
Yeah.
Like, are you putting, because there's a level of confidence there with the stock as well. And so your people on the ground that are doing the inspections and the gradings and making sure that everything is what it says it is, because that's often...
But you know what? It's taken 10 years to get to that point.
I have no doubt. And see, that's the thing, is understanding the parts of that I do understand, and I don't know all the intricacies of it, but I understand enough of the complexities to go, there's a fucking lot of variables.
Yeah, there is. And, I mean, I do it in such a way where I try to make people comfortable with it. There's obviously I can't tell everything about how I do everything, but there's certain ways, and I always let people know that, like, if they're not happy with it when it gets here, you get your money back.
Yeah.
Because if it's not as I described it, then I'll wear that. That's fine. I don't care. I'll fix it and sell it to somebody else. So what?
And that's
what I do anyway.
But honestly, that puts a lot of comfort in the buyer.
Yeah.
And this is something that we talked about again before we started, was just, I guess, being a bit of an open book and not, there's not multiple
I think it's very important.
Like, it's just you.
It's just
like
me.
it's just you, and you've even got your Instagram handle on all the cars. I've noticed, and it's like,
and that's
just
it.
at Himmy.
It's one Instagram. It's not an Instagram for my car business and this, and it's just one.
It's
just
everything. It's just you. And then, because I'd seen you posting about the property stuff, and I'm like, what the fuck?
But
is
you know
this
what?
bloke doing?
Because me, it's convenient for me, and it's easy, and it allows me to have more free time just having one platform.
And it makes so much sense, because I've got multiple Instagram accounts, and I'm like, oh, there's so much work.
I can't do it.
I can't
do it.
I can't do multiple ones. It's very difficult.
I still haven't adopted TikTok because I don't have time to make fucking reels, man. I'm still in Instagram stage.
Instagram's still holding firm.
It's still good, and I like it.
I couldn't access TikTok in Japan because it kept thinking I was in Hong Kong.
Oh.
And it is...
You set up a VPN or something?
I don't care that much.
Oh, yeah, okay.
But I found it very interesting that you couldn't actually access it there, whereas Instagram was actually going very hard.
Because I know when I was supposed to go to China earlier this year, a couple of months ago, set up my VPN, had everything ready, went to Hong Kong, spent a couple of days in Hong Kong. From Hong Kong, I was supposed to go to China. And my wife, she forgot to book the visas, get the visas.
Oh, that's super awkward.
Poor thing. So she was a bit upset. So we come back.
Next time.
Next time.
Yeah, no, I'll make sure you get your VPN sorted. But I found that really interesting, that there's that level of pushback around that.
So yeah, like I try and do what's convenient for me, and not take on too much stress. Yeah. So that's why I always make it very, very safe for everybody, because I don't want to have to battle someone that's. No, I don't want an unnecessary battle. That's
correct.
That's the thing. I don't want an unnecessary fight that I could have avoided.
Yeah, by just being upfront.
Just being upfront and just being a good person.
Shocking.
There's certain things you can't avoid. Look, I'm playing with 30-year-old Japanese cars.
Oh, mate, stuff's going to shit the bed.
Fingered by how many people?
Yeah.
So stuff's going to happen. Like there is that given there, but you do your best.
Absolutely. And if you're reasonable and if your customer is reasonable, then you can always find a decent outcome. And as you said, if you can't reach a decent outcome, you go, here's your money back.
That's it. Exactly right.
It's cool. Exactly right. I'm not here to do the dirty on you. No. This is okay.
And the thing is, it's not my livelihood.
No, it's not your livelihood.
For me, it's a hobby that pays for itself.
Correct.
And gives me a bit of extra bucks to buy these things.
And it allows you to tinker in something that you love, because you also clearly enjoy the problem solving and the challenge and the mad things you did to your vehicles. And I'm thinking specifically about the cars you built in AutoSalon, your Trago, your Prado. Like, that's mayhem to stand there and look at it and go, oh, fuck, how are we going to make it do that? Like, that's pretty serious lateral thinking.
It is, but you got to have good people. I couldn't do any of this if I didn't have good people.
Yeah. And so how many people help you with with the car business, for example?
Just one. Let's just keep it small. It's not huge. Because the thing is, when we're playing with $100,000 cars, I mean, I don't have a whole lot full of them. Yeah. Money is not endless. No. People may believe it is, but stock rotates.
Yeah, correct.
Right?
So, and that's the thing, is you're sort of looking at your float here is effectively what it is. And then once you buy all the things and you're like, no, the float's a bit low.
And that's why sometimes I tell my guys, I'm like, oh,
all the money's tied up in what's here.
Yeah, I can't bid at auction this week because I bought a stupid yellow R34 GDR.
There's no liquidity. We've got to sell a couple of things for there to be money for this to go again.
Correct.
Because, as you said, the money's not infinite. It does run out, and that's the hard part. And I think that particularly when you are driving things like your Liberty Walk R35 here, people would look at that and go, mate, this guy just must shit money.
Yeah. Not the case.
But that there can be an impression.
You're responsible and calculated spending, and it's easy. Like, I don't have a flash daily. You see my little Honda out there.
Absolutely, that was a sensible man's car. I smiled when I saw that.
I'm only wearing this because Loz gave it to me.
Oh, there you go. So it's the right price.
It's the right price. The hard tune merch, go buy some.
Mate, subtle.
But like a lot of these cars, like they're so like you said, obscure. That they're not easy to sell
Mate, they're not easy to sell.
either. You know.
I said I've been following your journey and watching different things as I've considered asking you to be a guest on this show, and watching you put your red NSX up for sale and watching the journey of that car. Because I watched that and I went, oh, that was hard work. Like, that did look like hard work to move that car.
I make most of it look pretty easy.
Yeah.
But sometimes you'll see one that sort of hangs around.
Yeah.
And we had that, that's another discussion on its own, but we talked about it, that it's, these are learning experiences.
They are.
Yeah. But I mean, I bought it at the right price where I could afford that learning experience.
And I think that's the big thing, is that it's not sheep stations. And because it's a very tangible asset, and something that people broadly understand, different to, you know, other commercial assets, where people can look at this and they roughly know what it's worth.
Yeah.
That also then broadcasts sort of, amounts that you're playing with. But it's again, like, these aren't $5 million cars.
No.
And in the scheme of doing business, these are not excessive amounts.
No.
So they're actually, you know, it's just no different to your mum and dad's first store.
Yeah, exactly.
You know,
right.
you end up a couple of $100,000, and that's not, you know, they're still, is it a micro business to a small business? Yeah, like it's still a very small operation.
Yeah, in the grand scheme of things,
in broad
it is.
terms.
But it's just a nice, neat operation. It's comfortable. One thing I do swear by is I don't like debt. I don't have any. So that helps.
Makes a huge difference.
I mean, I just don't want to get into it. It's, you know, I've seen my parents deal with it over time, and I'm just like, oh, I don't want to deal with this. So, you know, I do take, I do learn quickly, I guess, from things I see and experience. And that just, I think, just leads you to be a better person if you can act on that.
Yeah.
As well.
But it makes it harder because it means you've got to make the cash up front.
It makes it harder. And that's fine. I'm happy with that. But I guess for me, that's why I don't need to cut corners, because I've got my other business, which is the planning and survey, which 9 to 5, my brain is firing on all cylinders
doing
with that. And this is kind of more like fun, downtime stuff. And if I can make someone happy, I will.
And see, that makes a lot of sense. And I've laughed as I've talked to you because hilariously, you know, you and I don't know each other from a bar of soap, and I think this is the wonderful thing of this experience. But I've really laughed at some of the similarities where I have kept cars and the things that I do separate to what I do as a day job. And even this, like what I do here, I do this purely for my own entertainment.
Yeah.
I do it because I think it's awesome
Yeah.
and I think it's fun. And to be sitting here with you in this shed, getting to understand your story and these cars, and like, to me, I just think that that's so cool. But you've got to do a lot of other things to allow that.
You have to. It doesn't just happen. Like, you know, I was telling you before, before we started this, was people will message me all the time. Oh, hey, Himmy, I want to do what you do. Like young kids.
How do I do this?
17, 18, 15. How do I do that? How do I get into this field? I'm like, well, how can I condense it into a text message?
And that's the thing, is you can't. And this is actually the joy of this platform, is you can actually go, when you get messaged, you can actually set
Here's
up
a link, bro.
Yeah, you can go, righto, buddy, here's how it's done. It's a shitload of work.
Yep.
But
Yep.
it's the keeping cars as a hobby, because you'll note that, again, I do not have the hands of a mechanic. I too have these buttery soft
Office hands like me.
office hands. I don't mind spinning spanners, but I'm just not super good at it.
No.
But I've really enjoyed keeping cars and this world like as a separate thing. It's not something that I'm actually trying to commercialise heavily.
Yeah.
It is my outlet, so that when I am working commercially, my mind, as you said, is full force on that. When I go and play cars, this is my relaxation time.
Yeah. Yeah.
This is where I recharge. It fills your cup.
That's right. And see, with me, I don't really do track days or race them or do anything like that. I'll go to the odd meet and stuff. But for me, the fun, I think, is finding the rare, obscure cars, finding them and getting them. That's the adrenaline rush for me.
Hunt.
So for me to actually be able to do that, I need to have liquidity. So I need to flip
Yeah, you got to move
normal
a couple.
stuff.
Yeah.
to build up some bank for that one cool thing that's going to pop around at some point in time. And it's not that difficult to obtain because we're not talking rare Lambos here.
No, you're not. You're sort of in that, 100, 200, within
That's
that sort of
right. And
ballpark.
you can find the coolest shit.
You can buy the coolest shit. And I think that's one of the wonderful things about the car market is if you're not as impressed or not trying to just buy status and you're actually just buying things because you think it's freaking cool. There's a ton of stuff out there. There's so much cool stuff.
I wish I could buy so many more things I'd love. But sometimes I get scared of unfamiliarity.
Yes.
That worries me.
And the risky buy. Because if you get stuck with it or it's a total turd of a car.
Or if I get stuck with it and I don't particularly find out I don't really like it.
That's even worse.
Then I'm like, that's even worse. These, I don't mind. I'm going to be stuck with this the rest of my life.
And that's
great.
okay. And same with the R35s, because you sort of said there was a period in time where, a lot of Commodores, a lot of Hiluxes, different things. And at this point in time, R35 GTRs, like they're something where there is, there's a strong market for them.
There's a good market for them. They're just accessible accessible supercar. Yeah. Like for bang for buck, you cannot buy a better car for the money.
Mate, unbeatable. Because I see what they change hands for.
80, 90
what
grand,
you're selling
man,
them for. And I'm like, mate, that is a fucking bargain.
How can you can't compete.
No.
Now, yeah, sure, you can buy an Audi R8 for 110, 120 grand, not a little bit more, but that's 50% more.
Yeah.
But they're still nowhere near the car that
it's not the same car. And you're buying the R8 to flex. Whereas
not for the driving experience.
No.
Who buys an R8 for the driving experience? Nobody.
No, that's an Instagram car.
Nothing against R8 owners or anything like that. I got no problems with it.
We're not here to burn. We love everything.
I'm just giving my opinions.
But I feel the same way because I see people buying that the $100,000 car, which is the sort of step into those toys. Whereas as you said, the R35, like they're just Actually, here's a quick one for you. What do you think's next? What comes after R35? Because nobody's buying a fucking Prius.
Well, you know what seems to happen.
What's that?
Oh, you mean what's next in terms of flipping an R35?
No, where on earth is it going? As we, with cool cars, because they're getting less cool.
I agree.
There's a reason we're hanging on to 90s bangers.
I agree. They are getting less cool. It's government driven.
Yeah. The new Prius actually looks pretty sick. I saw a heap of those in Japan.
It does look
that's
sick.
a good looking car.
But it'll still be a soulless beast.
Oh, terrible. Yeah. And I must say the electronic steering stuff.
I still personally think EVs are a bridge towards hydrogen.
Yeah.
That's in my
and biofuel.
Correct. That's what I personally think that. Because I think what do we do with all these batteries?
Mate, EVs are garbage, and I can't say that loud enough. I get their purpose.
Yep.
And I drove a Toyota Aqua for 3 weeks, and I put bulk kilometres on that. And I have to be honest with you, it was a wonderful car.
Yeah.
But would I buy one as a collector's piece? No fucking way.
No. I think they serve a purpose. They're good for the commute.
They're great for the commute.
They're really good for data gathering.
They'd be terrific for data gathering.
For the people that own them and sell them to you.
Yeah.
I think really the main tool that they are is just a market. Well, they're going to fuel marketing. You come from a marketing background. The amount of data you can pull from those things, next level.
Talk to me about that because I don't really know what you're talking about here.
Okay, so I could totally be wrong, but electric vehicles, they will be gathering a lot of data about where you go, what times you go, your habits, everything. How often you fucking turn your seat heater on. All of that data is probably being sold to people who want that data.
Mate, good chance. Well, because you're plugging in your iPhone or your Android, we know that it's doing that anyway.
You don't even have to be doing that in a Tesla.
Yeah.
Tesla's already wired to everything, bro.
Yeah.
So, there's a lot of data coming out. So all of that just fuels marketing. So if you come along and you go, hey, someone comes to you and goes, I've got this product, can you market it for me? You go, okay, well, I need this data. You can buy it from whoever's got it. Target your marketing. And that's and your Tesla's linked to your phone, so your phone's automatically targeting you. The minute I get off here, I'm probably going to get ads for a fucking roadie microphone.
Potentially.
So I think it's a mechanism for data collection, which is fine. I don't care. I'm not one of. I tick all the boxes.
But that's why that's my favourite thing with the captures when it tells you to find the fire hydrant and the.
That's what that does as well.
Because that's helping it to know what is
exactly right.
Yeah, that's
exactly right.
Pattern recognition.
It's amazing the way these guys do it. It's so cool. I mean, I don't care. I'm not one of those guys that'll read all the terms and conditions to set up my phone. Just tick it, whatever.
I know that you own me.
You can't avoid it, right? No. You're exactly right. You own me regardless. Who cares? Take it. You know, so I bought recently a Nissan Nismo Note. So it's a hybrid, Nissan hybrid, little hatchback thing. Nismo Note, it's called.
I think I saw one of these actually.
Yeah, they got little factory Recaro seats and all that kind of stuff. And they're different to a Toyota hybrid because I think Toyota hybrids, their petrol motor and electric motor are connected to the driveline.
Yes.
Whereas with the Note, the petrol motor is just a generator for the battery.
Yeah, right.
So I think that's a really elegant solution. It always amazes me why the Holden Chevy Volt, which used to have that system, never really took off. Because that's a great system. Like, I think $20-$30 of fuel or $50 of fuel, you're doing 1,000 kilometres.
That was actually the thing that blew me away with the little Toyota Aqua that I had, was I was getting 800k and it's 25 litres of fuel.
That's exactly right.
And I'm doing, highway speeds and heaps of little, punting and I was.
Well, one of my staff has one of my staff has a little Model 3, and he goes and charges it on his lunch break at the Tesla charges around the corner here, and I'm like, oh, how much power do you get? He goes, I get 80%. What does it cost you? He's like $20. How far will that get you? 250 kilometres. It starts to not make sense then, does it? The little Nismo hybrid is a more efficient in terms of a running cost.
Truly, yeah. Good. And that's the thing is, if I said to my wife, I said, look, I could put up with one of these. I wouldn't enjoy it. And the reason that I drive old dungers is because I want the noises and I want I like driving stuff that feels like
but
a
you
tractor.
know what? I can't do these every day.
Really?
I just need my normal little
Yours are a bit
Honda.
extreme though. I think that's the thing is because yours are like fucking slammed and wide body and.
Yeah, I guess. But even then, like, if I was going to get a stock 35, I don't think I could drive it every day.
No.
It just doesn't give me that. I don't feel relaxed in them, like fully relaxed in them. I'm always sort of on edge. I'm looking at the temp gauge. Yeah. I'm looking at this.
Making sure that nothing's
fucking up.
Because that's also that's your product as well. Like so you don't want to be.
Yeah. But I still don't think I could drive them every day, as a daily. 1-2 hours, maybe half a day on a weekend. Beautiful, amazing. Then I'm out back in my Honda and I'm like, oh, this is so much better.
See, I think I just like hurting myself.
I love them when I'm in them. Like I've got that silver 34, that X-Time Attack car, and that thing is glorious for about an hour. And you're like, I've got to get out of this. It's amazing. It's beautiful. It's uncomfortable. But I got the aircon put back in it. I got a radio put back in it. Try and make the drive a little bit. It's amazing. It's reliable as shit. It's awesome. It's a sensory overload is what I call it.
I can imagine.
It's a sensory overload. You've got noises, you've got lights, you've got gauges, you've got information, you've got to watch for potholes. It's just so much, and it's mentally draining. But you're right, probably because mine are a bit more extreme than everyone.
Yeah, yours are probably a bit further. But yeah, and that would explain a lot of it.
But I think because I'm older now too, if I was younger, I could deal with it. Because I used to daily my my Rex was my daily.
All your mental
Supra
cars.
was my daily.
Yeah.
Now I can't be bothered with it anymore.
Too hard.
Too hard. Lovely to have and drive around, the odd car meet here and there. I also found as I'm getting older, I don't go to nighttime meets anymore.
No, I'm going to bed. Fuck. Mate, if I'm not going out. Like if it's 5 o'clock and I'm heading home, I'm not going out again. There's no way.
And all the guys will message, bro, are you coming to downshift? I'm like, fuck no.
No, it's like, it's nighttime, mate. I'm asleep. I can't.
Appreciate what you're doing, but I'm too tired.
No, this is far too hard. This is why I think the mid-afternoon meets are very pleasant.
Mid-afternoon.
So I can be home, sensible time. Time for dinner.
Yeah.
Now you've also got to talk to me a little bit if you're comfortable with it.
Yeah.
Your Liberty Walk car here was
Yep.
one that you obviously brought in, which I think is cool as hell.
Yes.
But then the other thing you went and did is because you're a lunatic, you got an RWB.
Oh, yeah, I did.
I
did.
reckon we probably need to touch on that just a little bit. Could you talk to me about?
So I'll tell you where my RWB journey started.
Please.
Was one of my friends is a really good friend of mine now. He's been I don't know, how did I actually come across this guy? I don't remember how I actually met him, but he's a Malaysian guy. His name is Yi. Yi, if you're watching. Awesome guy. I call him Dad. He's only a couple of years older than me, but I just call him Dad. Just as
You
a
do
joke.
that to people that are older than you.
Dad.
Yeah, you go, old man. Yeah.
I think I met him once. He must have been selling a car or something, which I went to have a look at. I don't know, but we become really good friends after that. I'd never see him or see him in a social setting or anything like that. It's only when I need something or he needs something, we'll get together and then we just like click, right? Yeah. He's just the best dude. So one day he bought a fucking RWB, the grey one, grey 993. And he bought it and I'm like, dude, where'd you get that from? And I'm like, what even is it? And he goes, I didn't know what an RWB was that well. This is a few years ago. And I'm like, what is it? He goes, RWB. And I'm like, I've kind of heard of that. Anyway, I did some research and I was like, I got obsessed with it, hey. I messaged my mate who's pretty in the Porsche club. His name's Reese, another good friend of mine I've known since Auto Salon days. He had a white 180SX. And I was like, look at this thing. And he goes, yeah, that's such and such and da-da-da. And I was like, I need to have one. I've got to have one. And he goes, I think I know. I know. I said to him, I said, if you find one, let me know. This is a few years ago. This is well before my current black one, even was thought about. And then it just so happened, 3 weeks later, he's like, I think I found one. Have you heard of the mob Chrome Temple? Chrome Temple, they do car storage and stuff like that in Sydney.
No,
they used to have a warehouse here in Pinkenbar.
Yeah, right.
So Reese goes, yeah, the guy that owns Chrome Temple, he had one built in America and his company went bust or something over there and he came back over and brought a couple of cars with him and that was one of them. But he could never get it engineered in Australia.
Yeah, gotcha.
So no one would mod plate it, couldn't drive it. And it was here since 2017, sitting in the Pinkenbar warehouse. Did a few shows on a trailer and that's about it. So I was like, oh, okay, I've never seen this thing. And he goes, I'll try to get some details. So he got me the details. And then we eventually set up a meeting to go see this thing. Went to Pinkenbar, saw it. And it was awesome. It was the best thing I'd ever fucking seen. It was a 930 Porsche 911 with a what are they? I can't remember what it was now. Something 350 something stroker Chev motor in the back of it with a big carby and a big air cleaner.
That would really offend the Porsche
rad.
community.
And its name was named Porsche, as you can understand why.
Makes sense.
Perfect. It's just a V on the end of the name. It's Porsche. So I got there and I was like, man, I've got to have this thing. And then anyway, we did a deal. And this guy was like, I was like, why haven't you got it on the road? He goes, the guy quoted me 70, 80 grand to put it back to standard and comply it, and then I can put it all back together. And he's like, I don't want to do that, so I've just left it here. So I was like, well, it's a good thing I know people.
I've asked people to do some pretty dumb shit.
So I bought the car for steel. It's left-hand drive. I don't know if you know. You do know. You know old Porsche gearboxes. You're like fucking swimming for third gear, and I'm like, it had wraparound buckets like this, and I drove it home in the middle of the fucking night, and got home, found it had no coolant in it, but the engine was perfect all the way from being an old
thing
Chev.
it had a Chev.
Yep. Got it home and brought it back to life. So Steve, the guy that I sold my first black GTR to, he's now my mechanic still there. So I use him. He does everything. I take it there. Steve Varun. I got a few old friends that I always use. And Steve's up in Clontarf, and I took the car to him. He went over it, nut bolt, did all this, all the shit, and we got it going. got it mod plated, got it on the road.
That's amazing.
Biggest nugget to drive.
Oh,
fucking horrendous.
That would have been a nightmare. And with the weight, like with that motor.
It was so bad. I loved looking at it. I hated driving it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I sold it. And I was like, I'm going to get another one. But because I'd already bought that car, I'd been contacted by RWB to say, hey, we've got a chat group.
Oh,
you want to be a part of this little elite community?
Part
and
of
I'm
the club.
like, yeah, fucking
fucking
sweet,
shit, yeah.
let's do it.
Yeah.
So then I got introduced to, well, it was actually the Australian rep, RWB rep. He goes, yeah, we knew this car was in the country, but we didn't know it was ever going to get complied. And I said, well, hey, yeah, it is now.
Yeah, figured it out.
So, and I said to him, I said, look, I don't plan on keeping this long term because I just don't like it, driving it, because I like driving these things. I don't like sitting there and just looking at them. I took it to Lakeside, gave it a few good straps around there as well. Felt like it was going to fall apart, man.
That's terrifying.
That car did not give me any confidence. So I got rid of it. And I said to him, I said, look, I want to build one, but I want a bit more modern. This is Churn, the RWB rep. And he goes, yeah, we do a 997 kit. So we talked about it a little bit, and I was like, sign me up.
Yeah, let's go.
Gave him the money for the kit and everything. And then the journey was to find a car that was uncrashed because we want the body kit to line up without any issues on the day. So we found the car. It took from when I inquired about when I paid the deposit to when the car was built was probably almost 2 years.
Wow.
In that time, I had to go and find the car, make sure it didn't have any crash damage. So I didn't really think about it till right. I'm a very last minute kind of person. I'm like, I'll wait to the end. I wanted to originally paint the car my own colour and do all that, but then as I got on a bit, I was like, if I buy a silver car and I want to paint it orange, I'm going to have to pull the motor out. No, I don't want to do any of that.
Pain in the ass.
Don't want to do any of that. So I said, I'm going to settle on a black car.
Yep, easy.
If I want to go midnight purple or dark blue, it's not a big deal. I can do it.
Simple change.
Simple change. So at the end, I figured I'm not going to change anything.
Yeah.
Just left it the way it was. Left it the colour. And so he picked the car. That was all fine. I got the car, left it there for a few months. Euros don't do it. Porsche don't really do anything for me. I had the thing there. I paid whatever I paid. I just forgot about it for like 9 months. Battery went flat. Didn't even think about it. Left it there. Everyone's like, what do you do with your Porsche? I'm like, I don't know. It's an ugly little piece of shit. I don't want to drive it. So left it there. And then the time rolled around. When I was ordering this work or body kit, whatever you want to call it, you get certain options. You can pick the type of wing you want and how wide you want the kit. You get a couple of options on everything. Suspension you can get directly from them. Wheels you can get directly from them. So suspension I just got from them because I like things to be easy.
Yeah, just make it work.
Yeah,
I don't want to be under there with a mallet doing.
I don't want to save $500 just to go and get my own suspension just to find out I fucking ordered the wrong thing.
Yeah, then it doesn't work.
All right,
correct. Because you've played those games.
I've played those games. I don't want to go there anymore.
Yeah,
if you're supplying it, you know it's going to work. I'll give you the $500 extra.
And it's a you problem if it doesn't fit.
Right.
Not a me problem.
So I did all that, and I even got the wheels from them.
Yeah.
So it came that finally we organised everything. It was a monumental affair to basically organise the space to do the build because I didn't want it to be a private build. I wanted everyone to see it because how often in your life are you going to get an opportunity to come and see one be built? Probably, next to none. So just to cover the cost of the venue and all of that stuff, I just put a $20 ticket price on it, which I thought was pretty reasonable. We did it out in Toowoomba because I wanted to. Well, that was the only workshop I could get SRS who would avail me of the space. So we did it out there, but it was kind of good because just the people who wanted to be there were there.
Yeah, well, it's full commitment.
Full commitment, yeah. So we did a build over 4 days, 2 days my car, 2 days for the other car. The other car was owned by a young fella. I can't remember his name. But that car's going to the States. So the person who was project managing the build for the guy that's in America, he sort of I contacted him and I was like, hey, how are you going? How are you doing your build? And he's like, I'm sort of don't really have a space. I was like, well, look, I've got a big space. Just jump in here if it's going to make your life easier. So he jumped in. We did a double build, which was good for everybody attending.
Which is wicked. Like, what a show.
Right. So you built with 997 and a 964, like
Amazing.
freaking awesome.
Yeah.
So we teed all that up together. So that was a big affair. Day before the build, we were. I told you this earlier. We pulled the wheels out of the box because the wheels had arrived months earlier, but I didn't have time to look at them. I had to look at one, and I was like, "Yep, that's cool." Close the box up again. Come back to it when I need to. Strapping tires on them. The boys from the tire shop were like, "Hey, one of them's a bit buckled, man." And I was like, well, look, we just got to get a tire on it just for the build. It's not going to move during the build. It's fine." So we got the build done. It was an awesome 4 days. We spent a lot of good time with Nakai-san and his assistants, and then the guys from the US that owned the pink car, they came over as well, and it was awesome 4 days. Like you can't repeat experiences like that.
That's a special time.
So friends from Sydney, everyone come up, and we had a blast.
Mate, be like auto selling.
Yeah, it really was.
Bringing it back.
It really was, and so we got the build done. I drove the car home. Didn't intend to drive it much until the wheel issue got sorted. I may have done one or two small drives after that. That was about it. Because I was always wary of that issue. Being two-piece wheels, I was like, if it was a single-piece wheel, I would have just driven it. I don't care. But being a two-piece, I was like, all the stress is on the bolts.
Yeah, so take care.
So I contacted RWB and they replaced the wheel, one wheel that was buckled. I was heading to the wheel shop to put it on, and I heard a metallic sort of clanging at the arse end of the car, and pulled over, and the car started swaying a little bit, pulled over, and my mate who was behind me, thank God I had someone there with me, he stuck his hand behind the wheels and he's like, "Hey, all the bolts, well, not all, but half of the bolts on each back wheel had sheared the heads off them." So... And then I was like, "Oh, Jesus." So anyway, we got the car to the wheel shop. We had a third-party wheel manufacturer come and assess, and it was pretty damning. So I knew that this was going to be a long process, basically, to resolve this. So I just got a set of wheels made in Australia straight away. I just do it because I know it's going to take forever. Yeah. So 3 months went on. They were trying to resolve it from their end. They've been good. They refunded at the end, so I'm not going to say anything.
No.
But it was a process.
Everything's a process.
It was a process, and that process took some time. So by then, I'd already got my new wheels, and I was in love with them. And I got a refund in the end. They were good about it. But I think for me it was a blessing in disguise because these wheels are so much better looking than the old ones.
And see, that's great. So it worked out the way
it worked out the way you do, but it's just no matter what you do with cars, you're just going to run into something. And you just got to be prepared for it.
Mate, my favourite saying is whenever we look at something, you go, bolt on is never bolt on.
No.
Nothing.
No.
Like not once, not ever does anything just work.
And this is why I just refuse to turn wrenches because I'm a retard to begin with, and I just don't want to make it worse.
Never works.
Yeah.
Like, I don't care. I don't believe you. I don't believe you if you tell me it's going to fit. It fucking won't.
No. But yeah, man, look, that's the story. There's more to every part of that story.
There would be 1,000 other stories, but see, the thing I'm noticing, and that is really helping to note the passing of time, is it's getting dark in here.
It's getting dark in here,
and I'm like, I reckon I will have extended my my welcome. I told my wife I'd be home at 4.
Where are we at now?
Yeah, we're pretty close to 5.
Oh shit! All right, yeah.
So we might wind this up because, mate, we have done a classic All Red Everything podcast at 2 hours and 52 minutes.
Are you serious?
See, I told you, mate. You put the headphones on and you disappear into an alternate universe.
Yeah.
See what happens? It's just fucking because it's just you and the conversation. It's amazing.
Good timing. I think the boys have just arrived here with the wide body K truck as well.
Oh shit, yeah! All right, we'll go and look at that. We'll probably shoot some reels here, all right. Just so that we've got a couple of cool things.
Easy.
Himmy, if anybody wants to buy something sick or just follow your cool stuff and see these cars, where can they hunt you down?
Mainly just two places. I keep it nice and easy. I'm working on a website, but we'll get there. It's another thing. My Instagram is just basically Himmy with a dot in between each letter, h.i.m.m.y, or my Facebook, Himmy Kumar, and that's it. Easy as. And just send me a message, and we'll see if there's something that suits you.
See you and find you something sick.
Yeah.
Himmy, thank you for doing this, mate. I really enjoy this. And I know that we could probably keep talking forever because I feel like we've only scratched the surface.
Yeah.
But I certainly feel like for people that go, how can I do what you do? I feel like we've probably helped to explain that just a little bit.
Yeah, it's short of winning the lottery or running into a bunch of money.
Yeah.
If you start from sort of zero, it's a process.
Yeah.
But you got to enjoy the process. If you don't enjoy the process, you won't enjoy the end result.
You won't enjoy any of it.
Because I still look back and I'm like, man, I did all that shit, and it's that's all amongst 20 years of being a professional singer too. Don't forget.
How did we forget to bring that up? Mate, we'll have to do that on
We'll
an
do that
episode
another
of the
time.
Wheelhouse.
We'll do that another time.
When you come and be a special guest star on there. Himmy, thank you for being a bloody legend with excellent taste and letting me come and hang in your super secret shed with all your cool toys.
No worries,
it's been
mate.
mad.
It's been awesome. It's been awesome. I was a bit nervous, not sure what to expect, but like you said, once the headphones went on, 3 hours just disappeared.
It just disappears because I remember looking at it and we were like at an hour and then I didn't look again and then all of a sudden you're like, whoa.
Yeah.
But that's what we love.
We love it. We love it. Thank you very much.
Hey, thank you, mate. On that note, we're out of here.